ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime and turn.
It's opening day in St. Louis, and 101 ESPN is broadcasting live from the Budweiser Brew House inside Ballpark Village.
Our Cardinals home opener coverage is refreshed by Budweiser. This Bud's for you.
Happy opening day in St. Louis from the opening drive on 101 ESPN, where it is 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by officially licensed Rolex jeweler Danny Mac, Brooke Grimsley, Matthew Rocchio, Randy Carricker at the Budweiser Brew House at Ballpark Village. Brought to you today by Budweiser, Holiday World and Splash and Safari, and Swiss Air Heating and Cooling. Good morning, kids. Happy opening day. How are we doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. This is a fantastic day. It is a little chilly outside, but still really excited to be here.
Press that little button right there. There you go.
1 o'clock, 48 degrees, and then at 3:15 first pitch, 50 degrees, ninth inning, it'll be 47. So it's going to be a little chilly, Brooke, as you mentioned, but it's the Cardinals home opener, and that's what you get.
And the Cardinals coming off of a pretty good road trip. I think all of us at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of those 4 against the Dodgers, if you would have told me the Cardinals would come home 3-4, I'd say that's a win.
I think it would be too. I was very surprised by the result there and how well they played against the Padres. You were able to get that one win with the Dodgers. You had the possibility of splitting the series with them, but it didn't work out. Velo.
I wonder if it's because he's not in the bullpen, and you can, for instance, Matthew Liberatore, I think he's going to have a really good year. As I watch him come out of the bullpen, and I'll get back to Thompson in just a moment, but when I see him come out of the bullpen and let it fly, you know, he's hitting good velocity. He's hitting to a point where he can be really effective, and it offsets his breaking ball, and you know, he looks really good. Where Zach Thompson being in the starting rotation, it's been a very good pitch for him. The other part of this, a little bit with velocity so he can stay in the games longer, but time will tell. You know, when Sonny Gray comes back, does he, and then all of a sudden you'll get a better idea.
It was yesterday 90-91. He did give the Cardinals 5 innings and gave them a chance to win, and they had their big boys up in the 8th inning with a chance to win it, and they just weren't able to take advantage. But you allow 3 baseball at the game.
Yeah, having a chance pitch by Mike, big boys coming up. But you know what? To your point, Randy. With that, I mean, you're the Dodgers done with their pitching and that lineup. I think they're going to be just fine.
And you saw in the bullpen, Dan, you mentioned that we finally got to see Ryan Fernandez. Finally,
if he's going to be pitching. Of trying to turn this thing around from a year ago, and team, that was the kind of game that they were buried last year. You know, when they fell behind, you just didn't feel like they had the firepower to come back, or in terms of a bullpen being able to keep you in the game, and that's something that they're doing so far this year.
And today the Cardinals have Lance Lynn on the mound. Cardinal return to the Busch Stadium mound. He'll be opposed by Ryan Weathers of the 0-7 Marlins. A rough start for Miami.
Ryan Weathers was a former number and high. I mean, I always look at the home opener as I kind of throw it out. You know, sometimes you use the emotions for your in a positive manner. Sometimes it's fun. I mean, it should be a holiday here in not early engineer. atmosphere as we get forward to as we move forward to the first pitch.
It really is a difference because I know that schools tend not allow that early, but are a lot of parents, you think, taking their kids out right now?
I was in high school.
Yeah, me too.
Once I started driving into school, Uncle Randy gives you permission to come on downtown to the game. It's a day game, and here's the way I always. You have one opening.
One of the things. What's going on there, Rocc?
I like it when we give this kind of advice specifically as part of the show, and the most kids are probably in the car on their way to school.
There was a reason that I asked it at this point because I'm letting people decide maybe early on if they were on the fence. You should do it because we're telling you.
The car trying to make the argument, and he just goes, "Thank you." Now he's in the car and he's making. I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna check right now and see if there's
You're
any tickets.
right here.
You know what? Let's watch
Look.
the crowd. See what I can get today.
Here at the ballpark and at Ballpark Village, the official open. And Fred Bird, Todd Thomas will be here. The organist Dwayne Hilton and the Cardinal alumni will be here at the Busch Field, Busch 2. Magnet schedule will be handed out to all fans, 21 and older. And then at 1 o'clock, the Marlins will have batting practice. That's subject to change because it is cold, and they don't really understand cold weather, being from Miami and all. Ceremonies begin with an appearance by the world-famous Bud Clydesdales, so you want to be in your seats by 2:30, and then the first pitch is at 3:15.
I think it could be a factor. You play down in Miami, and you've got the roof, and all of a sudden you're thrust into 40-degree weather. It's something to think about as you move forward, and I guarantee he's looking at this, and he can locate a fastball. He throws it about 90% of the time. I'm throwing it in.
Yeah.
I'm throwing. Probably have a little success doing that.
I would think so.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Lance Lynn because we saw him obviously this past Saturday, 4 scoreless for him, but you had the rain delay, so we didn't get to see him in full force. So
I love the current Lance Lynn, and I have to believe on today, National Burrito Day, that he's enjoying a breakfast.
This is right up his alley.
Yeah, breakfast burrito, right?
Yeah.
So it's perfect.
He's a big burly guy, man.
Oh,
big burly man.
And he is better, big and burly. He's tried the other way. He ran steps with Chris Carpenter.
Aren't athletes, even at that size.
Oh, man.
They're athletes.
They are athletes. They are athletic, but it doesn't mean they run 4.340.
That's correct.
They're just athletes. There's not many. But your Lance Lynn is great at.
competition. Remember that discussion yesterday between sports and competition?
Yeah, we've had enough of that.
Didn't expect that yesterday.
Yeah. Other action in baseball yesterday, the Orioles with a walk-off over the Royals. The Giants and the Dodgers are playing. And by the way, podcast that game. We had a chance. Going to join us at the bottom of this hour. So we've got for you. But in that Giants-Dodgers game, LA was able to pull it out by a score of 5-4. Not a great night for Tyler Glasnow, but the Dodgers, it doesn't matter. They
exactly. So
what?
what?
Yeah, right. They score a run in the bottom of the seventh. The Giants were able to get close, but couldn't overcome the deficit. And the Dodgers are now 7-2 on the season with that 5-4 victory.
Do you think at this point, just looking at how this road trip went, and they played very well against the because you started the season facing the Dodgers?
I do. I think it's if you go back to last year, and it's a lot of the same cast of characters, and going back to earlier what we said, being able to be competitive against some of the best teams in the league and how you do it, being able to hold on to leads, being able to be in a situation where you could split against the Dodgers. You don't have the feeling of like you had last year. I don't know if you guys feel that way, and I'm sure it feels that way in the clubhouse, but it seems like you have a chance. You keep yourself in games, you have a chance. With the bullpen, that's much better. I'm looking forward to Middleton coming back to see what he adds to this. Andrew Kittredge has been a nice find for the Cardinals in the trade with Tampa Bay. Ryan Helsley showing he can actually go back-to-back. He can do it. A lot of fans are like, is he going to go back-to-back? Yes, he can do it. It just has a different feel this year with the team. I truly believe that.
Well, if you aren't at the first two games, they were not feeling great, right, when they got behind early. But that was the entire first month last season.
That's
my
my point.
Like, yeah, right? You felt like you were down 3 or 4-0 early, first or second inning, and that team wasn't coming back. This team has, I think, a little bit more spunk to it. They just have a little bit more, as Panger would say, a little bit more gumption. And I think that's because of the kids. You can manufacture a run, you can get into a game, and obviously not allowing 5 runs in the first 2 innings is one of the keys to victory.
Wasn't it interesting? You had Ali going against Mike Schilt, and you saw bunt after bunt.
Yeah.
You saw a small ball in an actual major league game that 2 managers that will do it, which I love. I mean, it's, as a baseball fan, whether I was following the Cardinals or not, I want to see small ball. I want to see these guys play that kind of baseball.
Because
there's a place for it.
Yeah, because it adds to the spark, it adds to the aggressiveness. And there was times when you're talking about difference from last season to now early on this season, you were wanting to see that more last season because you did have some speed, you have some athleticism, but now you have it even more so this season. And I like that Oli Marmol is embracing that and using that. He said that during spring training that they were going to be more aggressive, and you're seeing that early on. So I like that he's sticking to his word and you're seeing that in action.
And it gives you a chance to win, generate some runs, generate some offense. And when you do that, it how you play. I just think that there's a excitement with you play, and it carries over to what you do defensively. You're in games, so you're on the edge of your seat as a player too, and it's been good on both sides, fan base and the players.
Now, I do want to just bring up one thing here because some people were talking about on social media that have
You love
pointed
that
out.
social media.
I do love the social media, Dan. I like to stay up to date on
Okay.
everything and see
All
what the
right.
fans are talking about. There are some people concerned about Nolan Arenado. He hasn't hit a home run since August 19th of last year. He has just 2 runs off 6 hits, 3 RBI, and 29 at-bats. It's a 207 average right now for him. Do you guys see anything that causes concern with Nolan Arenado right now?
Randall?
Yes, that he hasn't hit a home run since last
Yeah, me
August
too.
19th.
Yeah.
But
I don't worry about him. I really don't.
I don't. I wonder about his health because this is what happened last year when the back started going bad, and the swing is what he is, right? His swing isn't always the same anyway, so you really don't know if he looks out of sorts or not because he's always changing. Last year that forced him to go on the IL, and now so far in the first 7 games this year, there's reason to be concerned, but I think you just have to, I mean, he's not going anywhere, so he's going to play, so you just have to kind of take what you get from him, and hopefully he'll get hot.
I was looking at some of the bigger names in baseball. A lot of these guys are off to these slow starts.
Yeah.
Pitching has dominated this first week of the regular season, which pitching seems to be ahead of hitting. And so I'm not concerned. 85 to 90. It evens out. He'll get hot, and he's kind of the least of my concerns moving forward.
That's Dan. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. We're at the Budweiser Brew House at Ballpark Village. We invite you to stop by once you get downtown. They'll open here at about 9 o'clock coming up. And by the way, we are still on, even though we are at Ballpark Village. We are on our Air Alliance team studio cam today. So you can just go to the YouTube and check us out there. Go to YouTube and type in 101 ESPN STL, and we'll wave at you. And hello. Coming up next, we've got Sick of It. Get your text in to the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo-ho!
Opening day, yo-ho.
Nice.
Drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
Do well go text to the air conditioning service and say,
Yo, you already did one yo over, Andy.
I know. I don't. It's special. It was an opening day. Yeah. Can I give you Yo-ho? Can I give you a preemptive sick of it?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even seen them yet, and I'm already sick of the Cardinals' home jerseys. I don't like the jerseys with the little tiny letters. They look like a giveaway, and the Cardinal giveaways are sensational, but they look like letters on the back of the jerseys from a giveaway, and I'm already sick of it.
I'm kind of used to it now. Watching games, watching across the league. I don't like it, but unfortunately, I think I'm kind of used to it.
Unfortunately, there are going to be more nice jerseys in the stands today than on the field.
Probably right.
Haven't you seen the photos of the comparison of fans who have the now older version and the new version? It's like a stark difference when you actually
Huge.
see them side by side. You mentioned the lettering and the bunching of it. I really don't like the way that looks.
I think fans, when they get into the ballpark and watch today, are going to be like Randy says. I don't think they're going to like it one bit.
I'm going to be sick of it.
And you're going to hear about it, too, on social media.
All over on the social media, Dan.
On social media. All right. Sick of this. I'm sick of the day after the Super Bowl not being a day off and a national holiday. I'm also sick of opening day around baseball not being a holiday as well. You should be able to take it off. Kids go to the ballpark. It's a family sport. Make sure that they get out there and watch. And I think the day after the Super Bowl should be a national holiday. I'm sick of it not being a national holiday.
Thank you, Dan.
No problem.
This needs to happen. I feel like a lot of people really do go ahead and take the day off. Why not just go ahead and make it a national holiday?
That's where I'm going, man. Just make it a national holiday and let everybody get off school, get off work, and enjoy themselves.
Exactly.
I'm with you. I agree 100%.
So there's a text that we got a few weeks ago that I have not been able to forget. We were talking about how the women's college basketball tournament was more exciting than the men's, and a text came in and said, all right, Brooke, get back to me when the TV numbers come out. And guess what, guys?
Uh-oh, the TV numbers came out?
The results are in. Iowa and LSU showdown was the highest-rated U.S. women's basketball telecast ever, with an audience of 12.3 million. That's more than every women's college basketball game ever, every ESPN college basketball game ever, every Major League Baseball game last season, every NHL game last season, and every
Presented by Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Feast on fun this summer with the all-new Good Gravy roller coaster.
Greg Amsinger loves opening day in St. Louis. He, of course, is a native of St. Louis. He's a product of the Lindenwood University. And Greg is the lead anchor for MLB Network and MLB Tonight. And he was up late last night, but back with us early this morning for opening day. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm wondering what your opening day outfit is, right, character?
So what's it look? You're like mine is. I've just got a pullover. I've got a pullover with the Cardinal logo on it. Brooke is wearing her Cardinal red. Dan is he's wearing a jacket. So we're all ready to rock and roll.
Very nice.
It's chilly tonight.
Everyone's wearing a Cardinal logo, right?
Yeah.
I
He can't, Randy, he can't see the rest of us. Yeah, Greg, we are. It's on us.
yeah.
Thank goodness. Like kids in my class when I grew up in South St. Louis, that was the first home opener, weren't wearing a Cardinal logo. We actually stopped being friends. This one kid named Mike Dunkus, which was a very nice kid, my friendship ended with him when he did not wear Cardinal red for the home opener. Me and my posse of like 5 buddies at St. John the Baptist Elementary School in South St. Louis would always wear Cardinal red. He showed up one day, the day of the home opener, without wearing Cardinal red, and it was over. We never talked again. That's a real Cardinal fan, folks.
It really is. Okay, so last night you had an interesting discussion on the show, and I wanted to bring it up this morning. And I gave you the example of the Seattle Mariners, who have never won a World Series. Greg, as a Mariner fan, and maybe we can't relate to this because as Cardinal fans, we see the World Series so much and we win championships. But as a Mariner fan, would you rather have won a World Series or, without winning a World Series, seeing Ken Griffey Jr.'s career?
See, that was the argument last night. Cole Reagans, this left-handed star for the Kansas City Royals, is going to be great. And the Rangers traded him for Aroldis Chapman, who was not great for the Rangers. Jake Peavy said they wouldn't have won a World Series without Aroldis Chapman. And I'm sitting there going, why is that factual? Why is that like lockstone? It is a fact. I didn't buy it. I thought it was a bad trade for the Rangers. And they're like, there are no bad trades when you win the World Series. I disagree with that. I'm glad they won the World Series. I think they Chapman, who threw an inning and 2/3 in the Fall Classic, by the way, walked 5, gave up a bunch of hits. They didn't trust him anymore. So my point is, you can't over boogie to win a world championship and think every move you made was great because you won a ring. It's the only championship the Cardinals won was in 2006, but they had to trade Albert Pujols to get it. That was kind of a messy year anyway. I'd rather have Albert Pujols for his entire career than win one ring. I might be wrong. You guys might disagree with me. I'd rather have this star that I get to enjoy for 150-plus games for almost 20 years than one World Series ring. Go ahead, bash me all you want, but that's where I sit with it. I'd rather have Ken Griffey Jr., to your comparison, than one World Championship ring, Randy.
And the thing is, Greg, if there is no Ken Griffey Jr. in Seattle, there is no Seattle Mariners. There's no new ballpark. So to your point, you had a star, and a star that kept a franchise in the city in which he played.
So the argument that I got from people on social media was, well, if the Mariners won a World Championship, they'd still be in Seattle. I disagree with that because you can win a messy World Championship. That doesn't automatically mean people are coming back the next year. Would you agree with that, Dan?
Oh, I would. I definitely would. And he saved, in my opinion, he saved baseball in Seattle, and the series against the Yankees, in which he scored the winning run, saved baseball in Seattle. Now, there were very, very good players around him, but he was the kid, man. He was the guy, and he was not only the guy in Seattle, but he was the one that you wanted to watch that time period in baseball. He was the guy you wanted to watch.
Yeah, and the point is, just because you won the series doesn't make every single roster move you made a brilliant one. I love Chris Young. I would love to have this conversation with Chris Young. But I really think Cole Reagans is so special for the Royals. He's the ace they've been lacking. He's going to be win dead for them. He is smooth 98 miles an hour. Like, it's easy coming out of his hand, left-handed pitcher. I think they're going to regret it. I think they're going to look back regretting how great Cole Reagans is, what they had in their organization, and they over-boogied for a rental of a guy who's on fumes at this stage of his career. So I think they could have won the World Championship without Aroldis Chapman. My point was, not every move you make on a quest to win a World Championship is a good one for the long-term future of the organization.
Greg, we knew that this was going to be a very daunting start for the Cardinals to start their season on the road, facing the Dodgers and the Padres, but really coming away with 3 wins against 2 very tough teams. What do you feel about this group right now?
I like the way they competed. I got to be honest with you, Brooke. I thought even yesterday, it's like golf, right? You're only as good as your bad shots. To me, you can see how well a hitter is swinging the bat by how good his outs field. I like that. Like, ooh, his outs look good. To me, the Cardinals lost in the series looked good. They battled all the way to the end. I mean, they were scrapping, clawing, lose by 1 run. It would have been painful for Mike Schilt in his new digs at Petco Park. They have his old team come in and sweep him in San Diego. So good for him that he got 1 win. That's a tough way to open up. Both of those teams are good, man. The Dodgers and the Padres, they're good. There are 3 yeah-but teams in baseball, okay? You might think you're terrible. Yeah, but you played the Dodgers. You might think you're really good. Yeah, but you played the Oakland A's and the Colorado Rockies. Those are the 3 yeah-but teams that you shouldn't take too much merit either way, whether or not you lose to the Dodgers or you beat up on the A's and the Rockies. Cardinals got out of the gates against the best team in baseball. They took 2 or 3 in San Diego. They should feel good about it.
Greg, how do you feel about the Cardinals' approach here with the innings eaters? They're kind of going old school with rather than having the big strikeout guys. And when Sonny Gray gets back, he'll strike some people out. But they've got guys. You've got Kyle Gibson going 7. You've got Lynn going 4 until the rain hit. You got innings out of Michaelis. You got 6 innings out of Michaelis. What do you think of the approach the Cardinals are taking, which isn't the same approach everybody else in?
I think what you're going to see, it is a copycat league. You're going to see other organizations follow the lead of the St. Louis Cardinals. But Lance Lynn was right on point when he was interviewed and was asked, what do you think of the Cardinals' decision to bring in a bunch of veterans? And he said, look, young pitchers today, young starters are coddled at every level. If you want innings out of starters, that was the biggest bugaboo for the Cardinals last year. You got to go with veterans. The old guys are willing to go out there and throw over 100 pitches, just the way it is. So, I mean, I was on the air for Yannel Blanco's no-hitter. Here's a 30-year-old who was a spot starter in the minor leagues. Had teams pass on him. He's getting a chance to pitch opening day roster for the Astros. This is the biggest moment of his life. He's there because he's hurt or Keaty's hurt, and he's getting close to 100 pitches. And we're worried about this guy like his arm's going to explode. Let this guy stay in the game. We coddle starters at such a high level. It makes sense that the really want to exhaust their major league playing career. They want to get the most out of it on the back end. That's what the Cardinals need. They need innings, and the young guys aren't going to give it to you. So it was a brilliant move. You're going to recognize that veteran starters who have durability bring more value than the K per with, which is a product of velocity, spin rate. We want swing and miss all the time, but that doesn't help you win the marathon. It helps you win the sprint, but it doesn't get you to the season.
We have transition with the Cardinals, at least in the first week of small ball. There is still a place ball in. Greg?
I totally agree with you. Yeah, what the Kansas City Royals are doing is a reflection of what the Arizona Diamondbacks did to get to the World Series last year. Diamondbacks 84 games. How'd they do it? Without guys that mashed. They had Christian Walker hit over 30 home runs in the middle of their order, but he's an anomaly compared to everyone else. It was reminiscent of what Jack Clark looked like in the 1987 lineup for the Cardinals. You had one bar of guys that first slug came from extending single to a double. That's how their slugging percentage went up. That is what the Arizona Diamondbacks did. That's what they're still doing. How they tied the game in extra innings yesterday against Clay Holmes, the New York Yankees, was hilarious. A bunch of bloops, and with 2 outs, best player Corbin Carroll hits a chopper over the mound, legs it out. for a 2-out game-tying infield single, and it brought me back to my childhood. I mean, that's what we saw Willie McGee do, right? With a runner at third base and 2 outs, that's how he would drive him in. So we're seeing teams realize that they can't compete by overspending for power slug. So you can't for your team with a bunch of mashers. You get more bang for your buck if you have a guy like Michael Garcia. Base. He just hit his third home run yesterday for the Royals. He's not going to hit 30. He'll hit 7 runs, steal 35. Juniors going to steal over at shortstop. They've got their leagues. Dan, what I'm telling you right now is this: the app rules. Yet we're going to see teams run off in the draft. Multi-sport athletes in the minor leagues, so when they get to the big leagues, they have the range to defend because the shift is gone. They have the arm to throw from anywhere on the field because, again, the shift is gone. You have to make acrobatic athletic plays defensively, and they're going to have the speed to exploit the new rules. We're seeing a couple teams doing it early on, the Diamondbacks and the Royals, but get used to it. You're going to see more teams follow suit. More athletes will in the game of baseball. More exciting.
Speaking of which, I think a lot of fans that are coming into Busch Stadium today are going to be very excited to see Victor Scott II. He's become a fan favorite very quickly through the course of spring training and now at the start of the season. Of course, we know that injuries in the outfield have been a big discussion early on, and that's what's paved the way for VS2 to be up here. If you're the Cardinals, that you're going to be sending him down.
Well, first off, I regret naming my son London Amsinger. I should have called him Greg Amsinger II because it worked for Michael Harris II. It's worked for Victor Scott II. It's a theme, man. If you're thinking about your wife's pregnant, talk her into the junior, but make him the second, okay? It's a better play. Working to get your kid to the big leagues. Victor Scott, I don't think he should be going back down to the minor leagues. This kid competes. Like I said earlier, you're as good as your outs. How good are your outs? His at bat ended with a strikeout against Suarez for the final out of the game yesterday, but it was a grinder veteran AB. He fouled off 99, 100, 98. He was up there grinding like a guy that'd been in the big leagues for 12 years. Sure, he's making the big leagues. The kid is special, man. He got hit in the pectoral muscle. Get hit in the chest with a fastball, I would still be on the ground. This dude is legit hard as nails. I love him. I love him on the path. He literally is pointing his torso towards second base. He's it back if you throw over first base. He's him at the top of the order. No offense to Brent Donovan, but I like speed. I like chaos. I want chaos on the bases in the first inning. I would love to see him lead off the Cardinals. He is too defensive. Stay. Everything else back. Tommy Edman comes back. Maybe it's time for a trade, but you can't. This exciting young player back down the league.
You mentioned massive youngsters, and
wow, great. I'm probably the last to answer this because my parents were just so lovely. First day of the NCAA tournament, they let me stay home from school every year. That to me is great parenting. That means you love your kid, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
I have allowed my son to stay home the day after the Super Bowl. That's probably bad parenting. If I had tickets to go to the home opener and it's not going to miss the pitch. London, do you have that question, son? I'll call him tomorrow. That's probably bad parenting, but it's littered with love. As a matter of fact, it's caked with love because I want him to have memories. So, act like you didn't hear what I just said because I do love higher education. Trust me, I paid for it over the years, but I do want my children to have great memories, and sports brings you so many fond memories.
Here, and you're on tonight, right? On a Thursday night baseball?
No. We're airing a doubleheader. I get to relax and watch Cardinal baseball in my living room. I've got my Cardinal outfit on. I get to enjoy a day. This is going to be a day.
Enjoy. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
You're the best. Take care, guys.
See you, Greg. Greg Amsinger, MLB Network on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we've got Take It or Leave It. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9663. 314-399. Yo-ho! TIOLI coming your way on 101 ESPN.
From the opening.
Brooke, you.
And now, guys, this is game one. Take it or leave it. By home game 41, midpoint of the season, Victor Scott is the Cardinal leadoff hitter.
Ooh.
I'm
What
gonna leave
happens
that.
to Donovan? Yeah, that's what I was going to say is what happens to Donovan?
Number 2 hitter.
I think I'm going to leave it just because I think that he's
I'm
fine.
going to take it.
Okay.
I'd love to see it, by the way. I'm just not going to take it. I think that they're going to try to. Well, first of all, the question would be, is he still here?
Right. That's
So-
why I'm going Sunshine Lollipops on this.
Okay, so let's, in this statement, let's say he's here.
Yes.
I think that they, kind of like Jordan Walker last year, a couple of things I think of. Strategically, I like him in the bottom. You roll over the lineup, and then all of a sudden you got speed there, and he's in front of some of your big bats. Secondly, will he be here? I'm not sure that that's the case. And if he is, I think they like to take a little pressure off him like they did with Walker a year ago.
That's why I said game 41, because I do think once he hits his major league stride, he's going to cause havoc for the opposition.
Oh, absolutely. Which, at that point, I'd like him at the top of the
Yeah,
lineup.
yeah.
So I'm saying a little bit of everything. I haven't really made a statement that stands out.
But the question, the biggest question is he going to be here? Because, one of the questions we have is Tommy Edman going to play? But if Tommy Edman is going to play, we know they love Tommy Edman in center field. We know they love Newbar in left. Are they going to give up on those, especially if Scott isn't really dynamic offensively? If he's got a 280 on base or a 300 on base, do they keep him around because of all the other things he brings to the table? I don't know.
I would think the decision is easy for me. I would send him down, and I know that's an unpopular opinion, even with myself, but I'm trying to look at it logically in that you would get more seasoning in the minor leagues. Not defensively, but what he needs to do at the plate.
Yep. I
Oh,
agree.
defensively, he's been fantastic. But the thing is that you can see it happening. I think we all want him to be here, but you can see it happening if he doesn't find more of a stride offensively here.
Why do we love this guy so much? It's because of his speed. It's because of when he's on base, something may happen. It's not just sitting back and waiting for a home run. It's great.
And not only does he have the skill set that Vince Coleman possessed, but he talked to Vince Coleman about it.
Yeah.
And
I
for
love
those, that's still, even though that team lost the World Series, that was my favorite Cardinal team ever, the
Oh,
1985
for
team.
me, 1985 was awesome. 87's right behind it.
Yep.
2004 is up there too. But 2004 just had mashers.
Yeah, right.
And these guys are the kind of guys that, with Mason Wynn and with Victor Scott and playing small ball and stealing bases, that's excitement. That's entertainment for the fan base.
It really is. I'm going to stay with VS2 as well because my take it or leave it is, take it or leave it, Victor Scott II will have another hustle double today.
Take it.
Sure, why not? Take it.
Hustle double. Yeah.
Put it in play, and it turns into 2.
Right. Yeah.
That's
It'd be intimidating.
He's going to get a huge ovation, which leads to my take it or leave it. The loudest ovation, though, in my opinion, will be for Matt Carpenter. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that.
You think so, huh?
Yeah. I think he'll get a tremendous ovation. But I think the big fellas will get I think it'll still wind up being Goldie and Arenado.
You think so?
Yeah. Even though 2 years ago I know it was Albert. And last year for the last day it was Waino. But I still think the Stars will get it.
What
So
about
let's-
Lynn?
And Scott, I think Scott will get a big ovation.
He'll get a
too.
huge one, for sure.
What about Lance Lynn?
Well, he'll be warming up in the bullpen. I think if he was part of those that are – it seems like even Yachty, it happened with him. He was warming up in the bullpen, and it kind of took away from the ovation and being a single figure of coming out of the dugout or coming off in the motorcade. It just was a little different, although if he wasn't, I think he'd get one of the hugest ovations of anybody.
Okay, one other quick one before we get to Matthew and the text. It is National Burrito Day. Take it or leave it. If choosing burritos for a meal, you prefer the breakfast burrito over the regular burrito for lunch or dinner.
Oh.
Take that.
Really?
I'm going to take
No
it too.
hot sauce, though.
No.
Oh, we know, Dan.
No tomatoes.
hot sauce or tomatoes. That's a fun burrito that you have going on there.
A lot of meat and cheese.
I like all burritos, but I like a good lunch or dinner time burrito.
Okay. When Chris Duncan was with us, the late, great Chris Duncan, he went to Chipotle every day. And by the way, he pronounced it Chipotle, which was awesome. But we called him the Big Burrito because he literally had a Chipotle burrito every single day.
He liked Cane's, too, did he
Yeah,
not?
he loved his Cane's. Yeah.
Cane's is good.
We miss him on opening day.
Take it or leave it. Your one issue with Victor Scott right now is he hasn't tried to steal every single time he's gotten on base.
Take it, yes.
Take it for sure. I just want to see him run, get thrown out. I don't care. Just go run.
Be aggressive.
Are you okay, Randy?
I'm trying to not be able I don't want to pull our go ahead, Matthew.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it. Victor Scott gets a home run and a stolen base today.
I'm
going to leave that.
Leave that. That would be amazing, though, so I want to take that I want it to happen.
I
like that.
I'll leave that. I think, though, the stolen base, if he gets on, he is running. He's at home, he gone.
Take it or leave it. The person most likely to hit a home run and steal a base is not Paul Goldschmidt, but Mason Wynn.
I'm going to leave that because I was going to say Goldie.
Okay, Goldie is a logical choice for that.
Take it or leave it. Cardinals go 5-1 in the homestand.
Oh, take it.
Who's after Miami?
I don't even know.
I forgot who's right after
Phillies,
Miami.
right? Phillies.
It is
Yeah,
the
okay.
Phillies?
Yeah,
5-1?
Yeah.
Randy.
We owe Philadelphia a couple.
I'm going to leave it because Bryce Harper hit 3 bombs the other night. He's starting to come out of a slow start, so
They'll probably have a good starting pitcher go against us, too.
Zach
Yeah, they
Wheeler
have
maybe
those,
going.
don't they?
They could pitch.
Take it or leave it. Walker gets sent down again this year.
Leave it.
Leave
I'm
it.
going to leave that.
Not a chance.
Putting it not a chance. I like that.
Not a chance.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Take it or leave it. It was the right call to pinch hit for Walker. It was a confident. Sorry. Take it or leave it. While it was the right call to pinch hit for Walker, that could be a confidence killer.
I don't think so because I'm sure they pulled him aside and gave him a reasonable reason as to why. But I do think you have to be careful with young players in positions of where they can do damage and pulling them out of a game. I do think that you have to be careful with that. It's legitimate. It just, I bet they talked to him about it and said, here's the matchup. This is why we like it. Don't look into it, but this is what we want to do.
One last one. Take it or leave it. You're a little nervous because Miami's due.
Take that.
Yeah, I think I
I'll
gotta take that too.
I was thinking about this today. I wonder if Skip Schumacher is going to make all his players go in the dugout and watch opening day and say, this is what it's really about. You want to see something pretty special. You may never see it again in person as a player with an opposing team. come out to the opening ceremonies and see what this is all about?
I think that he will 100%, because it's so interesting to see that. I know that some people, especially after last season, might be down on the Cardinals a little bit in the organization as a whole, but then you look at how the Cardinals have so many different pieces within Major League Baseball. You just faced Mike Schilt, who is now manager of the Padres. Now you're going to see Skip, who's with the Marlins. They had a fantastic season last year. I know they're off to a slow start, but it just shows that the Cardinals system is something that a lot of other teams in Major League Baseball still want.
That's Brooke. That's Dan. I'm Randy. Matthew is here. Coming up, it is opening day. What are your favorite Busch Stadium opening day memories? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
The Blues. WXOS, WXOS.
101 ESPN is coming to you live from the Budweiser Brewhouse inside Ballpark Village for opening day in St. Louis.
Our Cardinals home opener coverage is powered by Swiss Air Heating and Cooling. Receive a $1,600 rebate and 16-year warranty on a new HVAC system at SwissAirSTL.com. A fresh perspective on the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
We're so lucky with the great traditions of opening day here in St. Louis and so many memorable moments on opening day. And it's interesting, guys, this really didn't become a thing until the 80s. The Cardinals have not always sold out opening day. And there were opening days, there have been opening days where they've had 20, 25,000 people back in the 70s. But once we got to Whitey Ball in the 80s, it really became a thing, and Cardinal Nation started to take pride in what they were, and it became much more of a collegial feel, like you were going to a college football game with people wearing the colors and being so excited about it and getting downtown early. And I have my favorite memories. I can still see that McGuire grand slam in 98 going over the fence, and it was a perfect day for baseball. Sunny day, Ramon Martinez on the mound, and we all expected that Mark was going to break the all-time record all off season. Everybody expected that he was going to eclipse 61, and that is my favorite one because it was just so expected, and then he did it.
I remember I was in the booth. Joe Buck was calling it. I was behind him. We had done the pregame show, and he remember it was a high towering home run to left. So the buildup of the crowd when he was there at the plate, the standing ovation, but then he hit it so high and deep, you could hear the rush of the crowd. And I'm with you, Randy, one of the great opening day moments here in St. Louis.
I think one that is my favorite, that you don't have to go back too long ago, is 2022, when you have the return of Albert Pujols. Little did we know that he would reach the 700 club, actually eclipsing that with 703 home runs that season. But just him coming back, and I just have the image, and that was just so cool that the way that they did it. First, they had Waino come out of the dugout, and he had a huge ovation. And then you had Yadier Molina, and then you had Albert Pujols. We know, of course, it was the final run for Yadi and Albert. To me, that was just so special because not only are those three future Cardinals Hall of Famers, but for specifically Yadi and Albert, we know that they are future Hall of Famers, and that was just so special, end of era for those two. And we didn't know what to expect with Albert Pujols and with him coming back, but seeing what he was able to accomplish later on that year, it was such a special moment.
For me, my favorite was sitting next to Tim McCarver. Actually, we were standing, and Lou Brock was, God rest his soul, he was still with us and was part of the motorcade. And he had a portion of his leg amputated. And he was with crutches, and he ditched the crutches and had his prosthetic and walked out to his spot among the Hall of Famers. And I looked over at Tim McCarver, and he's balling. And I thought, this is what it's all about. You know, this is players from generations. This is families, generations of kids that grew up with Cardinals baseball, watched Tim McCarver, watched Lou Brock. And that's his former teammate just in tears watching Lou take his rightful spot among the Hall of Famers.
Along those lines, Dan, so many people fell in love with Willie McGee in the 80s. And then he comes back in the 90s, and in 97 against Montreal, hits the game winner in the bottom of the ninth to beat Montreal with Ozzie Smith in the booth.
He may get the loudest ovation today. We were talking about who, I guess, of the current players who would get the loudest ovation. But I love when Willie comes out in his full uniform and wearing a red jacket. That's a unique look. It's a unique look, and he'll get a huge ovation today.
Yeah, and then, by the way, let's not dismiss Arenado hitting that homer in the bottom of the eighth a couple of years ago.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. There's always a great moment, and I hope that there's one that fans will remember today.
Yeah, there will be. Hopefully, the Cardinals will give us one. And first time we get a chance to see Victor Scott II. And the first chance for us to see Mason Wynn on opening day, too. So a different era of Cardinal baseball is dawning.
A little bit of a transition, isn't it?
It is.
You still have Arenado. He's going to be in the fold for a long time. You don't know about Goldie. Would he get his extension? But this is a little bit of a transition outside of the pitching staff. Well-seasoned, as we've talked about.
Very well-seasoned.
Well-seasoned, but the seasoned pitching staff, but the young kids that are part of the everyday lineup, and Walker's in that too.
Coming up here on 101 ESPN, the Blues are in action tonight here on 101 ESPN against the Nashville Predators. We're going to talk to Hall of Famer Bernie Federko next on 101 ESPN.
Take it.
The Blues are at Nashville tonight to take on the Predators and try to keep their slim playoff hopes alive after the Kings win last night. Hall of Famer Bernie Federko joins us now here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN with Dan and Brooke. Good morning, Bernie. How you doing?
Good morning, Randy. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good. That was one last night that the Blues needed. They needed the Kings to lose one. Now it's kind of a tough, I won't say impossible, but near impossible task to climb this hill to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, Randy, but I think that this is the one team, at least, though, that the Blues have control over is with the Nashville Predators tonight. I mean, that's the whole thing. In this 4-point game, all of a sudden you get within 4, and then who knows what happens. I think the Blues have a much, not a much easier, but a little easier schedule than Nashville does. So I think this is really kind of the most important game for them right now. If they can win this, I think they could really put a lot of pressure on Nashville.
Now, we know that every time that the Blues face the Predators, it seems like it's always such a physical and daunting battle, but the Predators have kind of slowed down a little bit here. They've lost 3 straight, but how did the Blues slow them down?
I think just a matter of playing the same solid hockey that they've played. I mean, I think they've got obviously a little bit more aggressive on the forecheck. I mean, you've got to get in. I mean, I think Torpchenko's played really well the way with that third line has been able to get in and do some damage as far as forechecking. So I think that's the whole thing. I mean, the Blues have tried to dictate the play tonight, not sit back and see what Nashville's going to do. I mean, when you look back at the 2 games Nashville won, Nashville was very aggressive on the forecheck. The defense moves up. I mean, they've got Yossi out there that's always seems to be a part of the offense. So a lot of times too, Brooke, it comes down to goaltending, and I think that we've seen Binnington steal an awful lot of games this year, and I think that this is a game tonight that he probably has to play his best, and hopefully he's going to win the battle, against the other goaltender. If that happens, the Blues certainly have a chance to win each and every game.
Bernie, I was disappointed that Jimmy Snuggerud decided to stay in college. It's one of the only times I've ever said that, where I expected a kid to come to the pros, and you know what? He stays in college. I like to see guys turn pro. What was your reaction to hearing about Jimmy deciding to stay in Minnesota?
Yeah, Danny, I was a little surprised because I thought, gee, with the way the Blues are, they're not right now. They're not in a playoff spot. Are they going to be a contender in the next year? We hope that they are, and I think that Jimmy would have been a part of the rebuild, and to have him come here would probably have been a really good thing for the Blues and for him. So I was kind of surprised, but with the kids, they have their own minds, and I'm sure he talked to his family, as he said, that he wanted to finish another year of junior and get some more experience. I mean, he's still a young kid, so I don't know. I mean, there may have been more to the discussions. I'm not sure, but it did surprise me a little bit. But I think in the long run right now, for Jimmy to come here, for the Blues to waste a year, I mean, are they going to make the playoffs? They got 7 games left. They probably have to win at least 6 of those to get in. And would he have got an opportunity to play right now? And even if then the Blues don't make the playoffs, then all of a sudden they wasted a year of that eligibility for him to become an restricted free agent after 3 years. So maybe this is going to be the best scenario for the Blues as well.
And he still could change his mind this summer, but as of right now, as you mentioned, he is going to be going back to Minnesota next season. What is some of the benefits? I know that you talked about experience, but what are some of the benefits for him and the organization for him to stay another year in Minnesota if that is the case?
Well, Brooke, I think it's development still. I mean, it's hard to play against men. I mean, he's still playing when you're in college. You're playing against kids that are your same age. I mean, he's only 20 years old. So when you're in that situation, all of a sudden you come in the NHL, you're playing against men that are 35 years old that have been around a long time. So I think that just grooming himself for another year. I mean, obviously he's a star in the league. He's a star on campus. He's plays the power play, kills penalties, gets all that ice time. So with all that being said, I mean, he's going to get more ice time and he's going to develop his game more. I think on the negative side, I mean, to be in the NHL is where everybody wants to be, and to be able to learn from the veterans during the year. I mean, yeah, you're not going to get as much ice time. You're probably on a third or fourth line when you come in, but I think he's got the tools. Obviously, he's a scorer that he could have maybe proven himself. So I mean, there's pros and cons, but ultimately it's his decision. And as you said, he may change his mind this summer, and if that happens, and he signs a contract with the Blues, then all of a sudden he's got those full first 3 years
on that rookie contract, and that doesn't affect the Blues at all. So it might be a win-win situation at that point in time as well.
Hey, Bernie, one more thing. Some teams are set. The Stars have won 8 in a row. They're in really good shape in the Western Conference. Some teams are battling just to get into the playoffs. From a player's perspective, what do you prefer? Do you like to ease into the playoffs with a good record, or do you like to have to battle as you're headed down the stretch of the regular season?
I think it's probably better to kind of ease into the playoffs. Certainly you want to be playoff ready, but I think there's times when if you've got, especially if you've got a really heavy schedule, which most of the teams do right now, I think it's nice to be able to relax a little bit and give some guys some rest too. I mean, it's a grind. I mean, the playoffs. The intensity level comes up even more than it does down the stretch. So I think it's kind of nicer to ease in. But certainly for teams that are battling, they get into the playoffs, all of a sudden they can do some damage because they're on top of their games. But can you continue to play at a high level for 4 or 5 or 6 or 2 months? It's very difficult. So if you're asking me personally, I would rather ease into it. But the Blues can't do that right now. So I think they're going to have to be on top of their games, and who knows what's going to happen. I mean, you win this game tonight, there's still 6 left, but it's still going to be battling. There is a lot of teams in the same situation. So when you're playing against other teams, they're playing for jobs, they're playing for their playoff positions as well. So this is a tough stretch this last 2 weeks of the season.
Bernie Federko, happy baseball home opener day, and we'll be tuned in tonight for the Blues and the Predators. Thanks so much for the time.
You're all wearing your red, too, which looks nice.
You bet. Thank you, sir. That's the Hall of Famer, Bernie Federko, with us on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we need a fighter. All you need to do is text in 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. And all you need to do is put your name with the word fight, and maybe you will fight me next on 101 ESPN.
And 101 ESPN is broadcasting live from the
Okay, gang, John is ready.
inside Ballpark Village.
Our Cardinals home opener coverage is refreshed by Budweiser. This Bud's for you. Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Take it.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, Randy, and Rocc here, and we are over at Ballpark Village. And it is time for the fight today. Our fighter is John. John, how are you doing?
Great. How are you guys doing? Happy opening day.
Yes, happy opening day. Are you going to come over here to Busch Stadium today?
I probably will not. No, I wish I could, but I can't.
Oh, maybe you can get over at some point this weekend. You never know.
I will. Yeah, I'll definitely be watching on TV, though.
All right, you ready for question number 1?
I'm good. Let's go.
Happy birthday to Tommy Herr. After playing the first 9+ seasons of his career for the Cardinals, which American League club did the Redbirds flip him to early in the '88 season? Was it the White Sox, the Athletics, or the Twins?
I believe it was the White Sox. Final answer.
All right, question 2. Former Cardinal Skip Schumacher will be on the opposite side of this home opener. At which position did Skip start the most games in his career as a Cardinal? Was it left field, center field, or second base?
Second base. Final answer.
Question 3, John. Late in the 2022 season, Wayne Oyadi completed their historic run together when they set the battery mates record of 325 starts against this National League Central club. Was it the Reds, the Cubs, or the Brewers?
The Brewers, and it was a great move by Yelich to let that first strike go by.
Okay, and question number 4, which Cardinals slugger was the second ever player in National League history to homer in the first 4 games to start a season? Was it Albert Pujols, Scott Rowland, or Mark McGwire?
Okay. Again.
Let me give you the question. Which Cardinals slugger was the second ever player in NL history to homer in the first 4 games to start a season? Was it Albert Pujols, Scott Rowland, or Mark McGwire?
The obvious would be Albert Pujols. I'm going to go with Scott Rowland.
All right, final answer?
Yes, sir.
Randy has stepped away here at the brew house, and now he is walking with his water ever so slightly to make sure that he doesn't.
Do they have grapes I'm sorry, do they have grapes at the brew house down there?
He brought his grapes with them.
But
John.
we also have some donuts down here, too.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So he's powered by his grapes that he brought with him. He has a little cooler. You know he has to be prepared with the grapes, and he brought donuts. So you have very donut-y Randy Carricker right now.
Absolutely. It's opening day.
It is. Say hi to John.
John, good morning. How you doing?
Outstanding. How you doing, Randy?
Doing great. Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing.
You bet.
All right, question number 1, Randy. Happy birthday to Tommy Herr. After playing the first 9+ seasons of his career for the Cardinals, which American League club did the Redbirds flip him to early in the '88 season?
For Tom Brunansky, they sent him to the Minnesota Twins, and he never felt like they liked him there because the Cardinals had played the Twins in the previous World Series. So he was never comfortable there. He wanted to play him for the Mets. He couldn't have felt comfortable there either. So Tommy Herr was traded to the Twins for Tom Brunansky. Final answer.
Oh, question number 2. And let's get to question number 2 here. Are you ready, Randy?
Ready, sir, yes.
Okay. Am I ready is the question.
Yeah,
yes, I am.
On the heels of the Tom Herr question, what do we have here?
Former Cardinal Skip Schumacher will be on the opposite end of this home opener. Mm-hmm. At which position did Skip start the most games in his Cardinals career?
Okay, are we doing like outfield, or are we doing different, like center, left?
The outfield positions are separated into center, left, and right.
Oh, okay, so separated. I'm going to say second base then. He played a couple of full seasons at 2B I believe, probably guessing, more than he played in center, left, or right. I'm going to go with second base.
Question 3, please.
Late in the 2022 season, Waino and Yachty completed their historic run together when they set the Battery Mates record of 325 starts against which NL Central club?
I thought it was Milwaukee. I better make sure they're there. I'll do the lifeline.
Okay. Reds, Cubs, or Brewers?
Brewers. I'll go with the Brewers.
Question 4, which Cardinals slugger was the second ever player in National League history to homer in the first 4 games to start a season?
I will say that would have been Big Mac, Mark McGwire.
Final answer?
Final answer, sir.
Matthew, take it away.
All Cardinals questions on an opening day, only one way to do it. Does Randy Carricker continue his winning streak through opening day, or does John get a win over Big Megamind? Bradford Bruns, ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
Win, baby.
I defy someone in St. Louis to find 4 Cardinals questions that the man wasn't going to get right. I'm so sorry, John, but he beat you 4-2 today.
That's okay. That's okay. And I know I had my work cut out for me today.
There you go. Let's go through those questions and answers. Happy birthday to Tommy Herr. After playing the first 9+ seasons of his career, he was traded early in '88 to the Twins for Tom Bernansky. He's one of my favorite Cardinal names ever.
Bruno.
Former Cardinal Skip Schumacher will be on the opposite side this home opener. He did start the most games at second base, left field. Not that close, but also, not that much of a gap, but you'd think it'd be a little bit closer. Late in the 2022 season, Waino and Yachty completed their historic run together when they set the Battery Mates record of 325 against the Brewers, and good call by John giving credit to Yelich for letting that first strike go through for the historic ball. And which Cardinal slugger was the second ever player in NL history to homer in the first 4 games to start the season. I got a little bit worried when you guys started talking about that Mark McGwire grand slam on opening day, because it took him till the 12th inning in Game 2, but Games 3 and 4 came a little bit earlier. He tied Willie Mays 4 straight games to open up the season. That still has yet to be broken. No one's ever gone 5 straight, but a 4-2 win for Randy Carricker in the fight today. John, thank you so much for joining the fight and joining the show.
You bet. Thank you, guys. I love watching you guys on YouTube and listening to you every morning.
Thank you, John. We really appreciate that, and thanks for being with us today. We are at Ballpark Village, and coming up with the Cardinals opening up the 2024 home campaign, we are going to visit with the Cardinal president, Bill DeWitt III, next on 101 ESPN.
The Blue
Lynn nabs the starting assignment, and he will oppose 24-year-old southpaw Ryan Weather. Skip Schumacher and company still pursuing victory number 1 on the young campaign. On the ice, the Blues find themselves in Nashville tonight. 7 games remain regular season style as the club chases the Western Conference's last wildcard spot. The SportsCenter update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
Welcome back to the opening drive. It is opening day in St. Louis. Brooke Grimsley, Danny Mac, Randy Carricker, great to have you with us. And we welcome to the Celebrity Line the president of the St. Louis Cardinals, Bill DeWitt III. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, guys.
Bill, how much fun do you have on opening day? You get a chance to go down there with the Red Jackets and have a literal front row seat to the ceremonies. How much fun is that for you?
It's very exciting. I would say it feels a little bit like, not your wedding, that's too much, but like a big party you're having or something. And then once it all gets settled and the first pitch is done and you're sitting in your seat, that's when I'm just like a fan, and sitting there and enjoying the game. That's, but just because there's a lot of logistics to get from the beginning of the day to the first pitch, but that excitement in the air is something I really look forward to. And when I get to the ballpark on a day like this, it's really cool.
Now, this might be hard to pick, but what is your favorite part of opening day here in St. Louis?
I would say it's probably seeing all the Hall of Famers in the Red Jackets. Close second would be the Clydesdales because it's just such a special thing. For people who have seats up front, just to see the power of those animals come through and, all the pomp and circumstance of it, the way AB sets them all up and dresses them up, it never gets old. It doesn't happen all the time. So when it does, it's a special day, and it really means something more than just baseball or Anheuser-Busch, although it means those things. But it's like a moment in time in the year that feels like they're brighter and warmer days ahead.
Bill, you mentioned the logistics getting from now until the ceremony and then the first pitch. And we watch and we see Cardinal events, and everything always seems to go off flawlessly. So what are some of the things that have to happen between now and the time that the ceremony starts, those logistics of which you speak?
Yeah, well, probably the big thing relates to the Clydesdales, the Ford or the trucks, and all the cars and the parade and everything. There's all the staging behind the scenes, and then you combine that with the fans all arriving, and other sort of support trucks and the player parking and the VIP parking. And I would say it's behind the scenes. It's a logistical symphony of sorts. And then up in the control booth, it's like it's also a coordinating challenge. Tony Simikaitis runs our game day. He does a great job, and he's, panning for the different camera angles, the different video feeds, keeping everything on time, coordinating with the on-field ceremonies because it's there's upstairs stuff and downstairs stuff happening at the same time. Pre-game things, first pitch. You get an idea for all the things that it's sort of like a cook preparing a meal for, 30 people, and then you're just one guy, and you're balancing all these different things that have timing-related aspects to it is sort of what it feels like on opening day.
And what's cool about being down there on field level well before the game and talking to the players is that, and I'm sure that you hear this all the time, your veteran players tell the young players or the new players here, hey, don't miss this. Be sure that you're in the dugout to watch all of this unfold.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for the young guys, it's like, it's a wonder to see how this all comes about. And even the visiting teams, I think, enjoy the spectacle of it in St. Louis because I don't know that there's quite anything like it anywhere else. Everybody has a big opening day, but we have sort of this combination of traditional things that we do and that renews every year with new faces and new excitement. we also do a great job, I think, of taking a quick look back at some of the things that may have occurred over the previous year, whether it's people we've lost or a look back at a cool moment from last year's season. So there's both the look back and the look ahead, which makes it the inflection point on the calendar, I think.
Now, taking a look at this current team, a very tough road test to start the season with the Dodgers and then the Padres, but the Cardinals are coming back home with a better road record than many people may have predicted. How do you feel about this group right now?
Yeah, I mean, after those first 2 games in L.A., I was getting nervous, and I can't remember the beginning of the season where it felt like, I was hanging on every pitch. It just felt like if we could make a statement out there, it would really bolster everybody's confidence, not just the players, but kind of the fans, too. I mean, we're trying to get back from a season that was, below everybody's expectations last year. And you want to get that enthusiasm back, that excitement for what this team can do. And I think they showed that they can do it. We've got a really competitive division. If you look at the NL Central, some would argue maybe it's not the best division. Well, but, all these teams have good young players, and there's a lot of parity in the Central. Even just sort of the Vegas odds would put, the top team and the bottom team not that many games apart. So I think the typical way that we've seen seasons unfold when we've won the division, there are a few teams that we would sort of beat up on, play 500 against the really good teams. I don't know that that's the formula for success this year. I think you got to really battle hard against all the teams in our division and have maybe a winning record or even better, a very good record against all the other teams to end up with what it's going to take to win this division.
Bill DeWitt III, the Cardinal president, with us on 101 ESPN. And Bill, I know that you are analytically inclined, but you also, as an organization, you try to foster a balance between analytics and old school. So as the Cardinals prepared to sign Lynn and Gibson and Gray to get innings out of those guys and kind of change back to what baseball used to be, how are you thinking about all of that?
Well, I would credit Mo and his staff for acknowledging the problem we had. I mean, obviously it wasn't, it was pretty apparent that we weren't getting deep into games last year, stretched out the bullpen, and that had a somewhat of a snowball effect, I would say, throughout the season. If we can get those innings out of those guys, and it's not, I mean, that's a little bit of a negative spin on it, and just getting innings isn't really the point. You want to get 6, 7, maybe sometimes 8 innings out of somebody with only giving up 2-3 runs, right? And then you have a really good shot at winning that game, even if you give up 4. So, you can't just go out and get the 4 best starters out there. You're going to break the bank. But what we did do is get guys that are very competitive. They wanted to be Cardinals. They know what it takes to, grind through a long season and get a lot of innings. And we've already seen that in the early going here, which I think is very exciting. We haven't even seen Sonny Gray yet. So I feel really good about it in terms of how we addressed the issues that came out of last year. But, look, a new season is also a new set of problems, and probably some other issue will crop up. Who knows? But you got to be flexible and nimble and be able to deal with issues throughout a long season. And I think Mo's shown that he's been able to do that over the years.
You just talked about some of the veterans. What do you think of this balance that is in the clubhouse right now of the veterans in there, but also the young budding stars in Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, and, of course, Victor Scott II?
Yeah, those guys are really exciting because it's a different dimension that we haven't seen. A lot of speed there. I mean, Victor could be how many spaces did he steal, Randy, in minor leagues last
94.
year? Yeah, I mean, if he can get on base, he's going to be a Rookie of the Year candidate for sure. Very exciting to watch and really good defensively, and already shown that in the early going on the road there. And the enthusiasm that these guys are bringing to the team, it's a key part of the hope we have for not just this year but beyond. And then you anchor it with Goldie and Arenado and Lynn and all the others. And it does feel like that's a really interesting component of what we have going this year, which is
10 minutes.
Hall of Fame caliber veterans and up and coming, really hungry players. And there's always a mix every year, but this feels particularly dramatic in that sense with these types of players that we have.
Ever since Busch Stadium was opened in 2006, very soon after, it might have even been after the 06 season, you guys started making an improvement a year. It seems like something is always new at Busch Stadium every time a new season unfolds. What's new at Busch Stadium this year?
I would say the big thing is the Budweiser 703 Club, which is where the old bow tie bar was in left field, kind of under Big Mac land there, tucked underneath the deck. We enclosed that space, and now it's an all-inclusive club. Really cool. We were just in it yesterday with employees for an opening lunch, and it's really cool open space, modern design. The seats have this new mesh back that is cooler, and a lot of the new ballparks are using them. So that's the shiny new penny in Busch Stadium this year. But then there's some other little things, like all the speakers have been replaced. That was actually a pretty big project. Just to upgrade the sound and make sure all the fastenings were good, and these things require maintenance. But we have, behind home plate is a little subtle change, but the Dorna panels, which had the signs behind home plate, and then we also had these parabolic speaker things that jutted out. Those have been removed and replaced with LEDs flush with the original curve of the wall. So there's a tiny bit more room back there. It looks cleaner. And then just, fresh coats of paint, little new concession areas, and just, new signs you'll notice. It'll feel like, a familiar pair of shoes, but also with, a new coat of paint and a good feel for it this upcoming season.
You guys are always looking ahead and working ahead. A big talk this offseason and still ongoing right now is everything that's going on with the TV deals, RSNs, and the future of what that will look like in Major League Baseball. What is the vision that you have of what that could look like? Because I think a lot of fans just want to get to the point where it's accessible for everyone and you don't have to deal with blackouts anymore.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. That's what we're working towards. As of this point, Bally Sports Midwest, our rights holder, has been, paying the bills. And, as you know, their parent company, Diamond, is in bankruptcy, and a few teams they've defaulted on a few teams, and they've gotten their rights back, and MLB's helping them broadcast their games. Arizona and San Diego come to mind in that category, and a couple others. Colorado, they're doing that with. But so far, we've kind of been in a status quo model where we remain on Bally's. They are likely to emerge from bankruptcy with a plan to continue to have our rights, it appears, and so we're planning on business as usual, but also working behind the scenes to make sure that should our rights come back to us at some point sooner than when the contract would dictate, we'd be in a good position to be able to get that distribution and get it out there to fans. But in any event, whether it's remaining on Bally's for the long term or doing something else, I think the fans should realize that there will always be options to watch the games. And if anything, access to the games will get better.
A little over 5 minutes, guys.
A direct-to-consumer streaming product at some point. It's not happening this year because of the contracts, but I'm really trying to get that going. Hopefully next year, if not soon thereafter. So options to watch Cardinals games will improve as we get, a year or two beyond where we are right now.
All right, a couple of more things for Bill DeWitt III, the Cardinal president. I know of your passion for the Cardinal uniform and the changes that have been made over the years, the beautiful crest, the enhanced bird on the bat, way back when the team was purchased by your family in the 90s, and the baby blue and the beautiful Saturday afternoons. So what do you think of the whole jersey situation right now?
Well, it's been a bit frustrating to see because, I did have some concerns with how they were rolling this thing out. We were able to, ensure that the birds on the new Nike jerseys are on the official game jerseys are still using chain-stitched embroidery, which we've been using for 100 years. And I didn't want to change to a stretchier, thinner thing that would sort of just look like a replica. And even though the players might feel it a little bit, I don't know. They say it's performance-oriented, but I don't think the players care if they've got chain-stitched embroidery on their birds or fabric that stretches. So we stuck with that. So I think from our standpoint, it's business as usual. It's the best-looking jersey in all of sports. Other teams are going to maybe feel it a little bit in terms of that authentic jersey, not quite being as differentiated from the replicas as it used to be, but I think in our case we'll be fine.
A lot of people, speaking of the jerseys, a lot of people waiting to see what these City Connect uniforms look like. Now, I know you can't reveal everything, but is there a little bit of a hint or indication of what they could possibly look like?
We are literally, this is like the Manhattan Project in terms of secrecy. I will say that there's I think 9 teams are doing them this year. And that'll bring us to just about all of them, with maybe the exception of the Yankees, who are still on the fence about it. But we'll be doing it early in the season, and I'm really excited about it. I'll just say this. It won't feel like we're trying to be
3 minutes.
So different that, it just looks like some, Easter egg outfit, okay? However, it is, I think, different enough that it'll get people excited. I think some of the young fans will buy into what we're doing here, and I feel pretty confident that some people are going to absolutely love it, and I don't think the haters will be much of a large group, because we've struck a balance between what I would say is something new and different, but also something that feels familiar and is consistent with what I feel like our brand is all about.
Okay, Bill, one more thing here on opening day, the home opener for the Cardinals, 3 o'clock this afternoon. I'm sure that you've seen this.
2.5.
I want you to respond to a prevailing comment that's made on social media, and we see it on our text line, and that is that the DeWitts don't care about winning. They just want to get 3,000 people through the gates. I want you to respond to that prevailing comment. It's not something that just comes up once in a while, but I know you see it, and I want you to be able to respond to it right here.
Yeah, it's I understand the sentiment in the sense that when you see free agents out there that we're not going for in the hot stove league, you kind of go, well, why not? The Cardinals do well in attendance. They are up there with the other teams in revenue. And so I get that from a basic, I guess, emotional standpoint. But what we do here, and we've done it pretty much consistently for almost 30 years now, is put all the resources that the business
90 seconds
from a revenue standpoint towards the goal of being competitive every year. And, there isn't really much else we can do. We can certainly make bad decisions and do stupid things in that effort to be competitive. But as far as the commitment to winning, I think, and that would take sort of like almost a whole nother hour to talk about what that financial commitment looks like. But I guess I would just say, know that we know we are our goal.
1 minute.
Consistent, competitive teams, and in pursuit of that goal, we pretty much deploy all the resources we have available towards that end, whether it's payroll, or player development, or analytics, or the draft, or all the other ways in which we try to create a great fan experience to drive the revenue and the work we're doing on TV, et cetera. So everything is in that goal of being in the upper echelon of baseball, so that we can fill those holes that can emerge that you can't always fill with your own player development system, with those free agents or those trades that make sense and keep us
10
towards division championships every year.
Bill, thanks so much for your time on opening day. We appreciate it. Have a great 2024, and we'll talk again soon. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thanks, and happy opener.
Thank you.
That is Bill DeWitt III, the Cardinal president on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we've got a quick rush hour reset before we talk to Cardinal Hall of Famer Jason Isringhausen this hour on 101 ESPN.
One ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. 101 ESPN is broadcasting live from the Budweiser Brew House inside Ballpark Village for the Cardinals home opener.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Feast on fun this summer with the all-new Good Gravy roller coaster.
We're recapping the biggest sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a rush hour reset.
We are thrilled to be here at Ballpark Village. We are at the Budweiser Brew House, and this show will be here till 11, and then BK and Ferrario take over from 11 to 2, and then the Fast Lane from 2 to 6 this afternoon. Dan McLaughlin, Brooke Grimsley, Randy Carricker, and we are brought to you today at the Budweiser Brew House by Budweiser, by Holiday World and Splash and Safari, and by Swiss Air Heating and Cooling. Cardinals and Marlins this afternoon, 3 o'clock. Lance Lynn will toe the rubber for the Redbirds as he returns to Busch Stadium as a member of the Cardinals wearing number 31.
So what's the over and under on the cuss words potentially from Lance today?
On the mound or afterwards with Jim Hayes?
That's a good point. I'll go on the mound.
Let's see.
I'm going to say he goes 6 innings, and I'm going to say 18.
18.
Three per inning.
I was literally thinking 16 and a half was where I was going to put the line.
I'll take the over.
I will
like
take the over too.
on that
Yeah.
as well. And we only got to see him just a little bit. I was very excited by his start on this past Saturday because he had 4 scoreless innings pitched, and I'm excited to see what he looks like in this situation today. You have the home opener, all the festivities. I think that it's good. You don't like having Sonny Gray out, but Lance Lynn, having the experience of having been here, you talked about the festivities can kind of catch up to a lot of the players. He's been here, done that. Of course, this is his first time starting a home opener for the Cardinals, but he understands the experience and all the excitement surrounding this.
Yeah, a guy like Lance, as you said, has been here, done that, and then can just kind of breathe. We're going to talk to Jason Isringhausen. He talks about the ability when things are going fast to slow it down and breathe. And I would assume a guy that's been in this long, and Lance Lynn would be one of those guys that understands how to handle the situation.
Ryan Weathers will go for the 0-7 Marlins, a 3:15 first pitch. And let me check, but I believe there's still scattered tickets available. If you'd like to come down to the ticket office and get tickets for the home opener today, I believe you can do so.
A little surprising, huh?
There are, earlier when we were talking about it, I was checking the tickets. Some pretty good prices, pretty good tickets. I might have snagged one.
Oh, good.
Did you? You're going to go to your first opening day.
I still got to figure out some logistics for today, but right now I got one sitting in the cart right now, and it hasn't been taken yet. So
what else you got to do? You're done at 11.
I just got to figure out I got to figure out the podcasting logistics. We have some great interviews today. I want to get some of the clips of our interviews out there to the social media folks, the Cardinals fans before the game. We got some things to do, Danny Mac.
All
That's
right.
what I'm saying.
Okay. We just show up and gab. You really work.
Yeah, we were like, what else could you ever be doing? Oh, I guess we need to put this on a podcast, huh?
Yeah. The Blues also are in action tonight, 7 o'clock in Nashville, 6 o'clock pregame here on 101 ESPN. And all of the playoff hopes, the slim playoff hopes, probably went by the boards last night with the Kings' 5-2 win over the Kraken. The Blues now trailing by 5 points against L.A. in the wild card race.
Going to be tough to make that up. You needed a loss last night. You didn't get it, but here's the bottom line. The only thing you control is whether or not you win. So go out and win tonight and see where it takes you.
Yeah, that's the only thing that you can do right now. I'm still trying to get past everything that happened yesterday with Jimmy Snuggerud because I think a lot of us were excited to see him, and I think that the Blues were as well. And so now you look ahead to, if they don't make the playoffs, what will this look like and how does this change their offseason plans? Not only from the point that you don't make the playoffs, but also you possibly, because he could change his mind this summer, but as of right now, you won't have Jimmy Snuggerud as a part of those plans moving forward for next season.
I just thought he'd get so much experience in a limited amount of time. I'm disappointed that he's not here. I thought it would be exciting for the fan base to hold on to something, too. Holding on to playoff hopes is one thing, but also it's always fun to see an influx of talent come in and a young player, I don't care what sport it is, and so much has been made of him. It would have been fun to see.
And now you're going to miss him next year, too. That's the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been fine if he didn't sign until after the season, but now you aren't going to have him next year, which hurts even more.
Yep. No, you're right.
That's Dan. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Coming up, we're going to talk to the Cardinal Hall of Famer. He'll be involved in the Red Jacket ceremony today. One of our all-time favorites, Jason Isringhausen, is next on 101 ESPN.
Drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
Danny Mack, Brooke Grimsley, Randy Carricker, the opening drive, 101 ESPN, and one of our favorites, Jason Isringhausen, Cardinal Hall of Famer, former Cardinal closer, world champion, joins us on this opening day, a busy day for Izzy. Thanks for joining us, sir. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning, everybody. How's it going?
Everything's great, and we always appreciate you taking the time. And we know how much you wanted to be in the Cardinal Hall of Fame. How cool is it for you to be down there greeting the players with your red jacket on?
It's still one of the highlights every year. I got inducted in 19, and COVID hit, so we didn't get to have a lot of fun that first year. But since then, every year it's like a holiday here in this region, and it's just a ton of fun to be out there with the guys. I spend all spring training down there with them. But to see them in St. Louis and watch some of the younger guys that have never witnessed something like this before, it's something special, and it's something that they should really embrace, and hopefully they get to see it for many more years.
You work with a lot of the young pitchers. You tell them going into this, coming over here to Busch Stadium for the home opener today, of what to expect and how to really handle all the excitement surrounding it?
Oh, no. I don't tell them anything. I out there and just enjoy it. Then, it's kind of like playoff baseball, so to speak. If you just have to soak it all in. It's once in a lifetime kind of thing for some people, and I'm lucky enough to be able to do it for the rest of my life. And I remember the first time I got to go through it, and watching the Clydesdales is something special. It's special in St. Louis when the Clydesdales show up. It's opening day in playoff baseball, so hopefully we see them more than once today.
Jason from Brighton, Illinois, did you ever have a chance as a fan or as a kid to come to an opening day?
No, I didn't. No, we didn't. I never came to baseball when I was young. We just watched it on TV or listened to it on the radio, my father and I in the truck, and it's something special. Like I said, Dan, you know how I feel about this whole thing, and being able to put on that red coat, and it's not the same to me. I feel sorry for some of the kids because they got to see me out there. I got to see Red Shandies and all the rest, the Bruce, the Luz. I mean, it just goes on, and Gibby and those guys. Those guys were my heroes. And but I get to hang out with Willie McGee, who was one of my heroes also. So like you guys were talking about earlier, I think he'll get the biggest ovation today, and it's well-deserved. Willie is a special person.
What do you think from a player's perspective? You had the chance to do this as a player. What do you think it means to them?
I think it's the start of something special. I think it stinks that we had to start the season on the road, but it got out of the way. And it's when this happens in St. Louis, Cardinal baseball is back. The stadium should be full today. Kind of crappy weather. It's going to be a little chilly out there today, but for the players, it's something that they have to cherish. They have to soak it in. You never know how many of these you're going to have in your career, opening days. And it's just part of their job now, and they have to realize that. But once the festivities is over, it's time for baseball, and these kids will be ready to go.
As you mentioned, it was a very tough test for them, but we did get to see some positives, especially coming out of the starting rotation. What stood out to you the most from the starters?
Well, I think they were signed to go deep into games, and the older guys proved that that's what they do. They got into the sixth inning every time. It's great to see. It makes everybody fresh. It makes the bullpen better when they don't have to be stretched out. They were sometimes last year, and trying to develop that. People say that we don't develop starters, but we led the minor leagues in starters last year. So it's part of the process that we're working on in the minor leagues and making these kids go deeper into games.
That is great to hear, because I was just going to ask you about that, because you're old school and you're down there talking to these guys. How accepting are young pitchers of being asked to deliver more innings than they've ever delivered before?
Well, I think it's part of the process of developing these kids. I mean, it's the game within the game. It's outlasting the other starting pitcher. When you outlast the other starting pitcher, you're giving your team and yourself a chance to win the ballgame. I mean, I know wins and losses aren't as important as they used to be in the analytical world, but When at the end of the year, when you're over 200 innings in the big leagues, that means something, and you get paid to do that. There's something about innings eaters that teammates love, your bullpen loves. There was a lot of times sitting in the bullpen when Carp or Waino or something like that would start, and you think, boy, I might have that. Nice. And we need more of that, and we're trying to develop that. It's all a mindset, and it's all about conserving your pitches, and we're getting there, and we're working on it. But yeah, it's great to see these older guys go out there and show some of the younger kids how it's done.
Speaking of some of those younger pitchers that you're working with down there, what have you seen from Michael McGreevy and Gordon Graceffo?
Well, those McGreevy is he chew up a lot of innings when he gets to the big leagues. He's still working on his splits. When I say splits, he has some troubles against lefties right now, and coming up to the big leagues, they're going to load up lefties against him, and it's a process of learning how to get both sides of the plate out and using your pitches the right way, and maybe developing a new pitch. We've got Michael working on a cutter now and some things like that to get lefties out, make it a little more challenging for him. And Graceffo is going to be Gordon is probably maybe a step behind McGreevy in his development, but McGreevy throws everything for strikes. Gordon's more of a power pitcher, and with a power pitcher, he wastes a lot of pitches trying to make him get ahead and use his chase pitches to get outs quicker. And it's like I said, it's all a process, but we've got a bright future. We've got Tink, we've got TK Roby, we've got some guys down there with some great arms, and we got some younger kids that some of our Latin American kids are really strides, and it's great to see, and very excited for the future. We just got to keep them all healthy.
Lance Lynn goes today, and Izzy, I still get a kick out of watching him. How about you?
He's something. I love watching him. He don't care. He doesn't. Everybody knows he's going to throw a fastball. He's going to chip far where they may. He's old school. It doesn't have the zip as it used to back in the day, but man, he still comes right at you, and he's just a big ball of fire out there. And you never know what you're going to get out of Lance, and I think that's what's special about him.
Cardinal Hall of Famer Jason Isringhausen, a couple of more things. Number one, Izzy, I've been saying for the last week that when Victor Scott II gets on base, he's intimidating. He might not be intimidating for the pitcher, but somebody on that infield is intimidated by his speed, especially once he gets on base. Am I right about that? Do you think that somewhere along the line, his speed, somebody's thinking about him rather than the next pitch?
Well, I mean, I think as for industry, like their speed doesn't slump, right, Randy? We've talked about that for many years, and he's got a gift. He's got a tool that we talk about, a 5-tool player. He's got a tool that you just can't teach, and you don't steal 94 bases in the minor leagues without getting on base. I know he started off a little slow, but he's never played above Double-A. But he's electric in the outfield. He's just got to be more patient sometimes, and he's going to get on base. But we're 6 games into this or 7. I think Victor's going to be just fine, and he's going to be an exciting player to watch for a long time here in St. Louis.
Izzy, you deserve a ton of credit because, as Randy said, you're old school, but you have learned analytics. How do you mix the two together when you're looking at these young kids or even evaluating what you see on the Major League Diamond?
Well, I mean, it's now that I get on the computer or the iPad and I look at certain things, and it actually makes teaching a lot easier because you find out what a kid does really well a lot quicker than the old eyeball test. You can go to these numbers and find out what they do really good and exploit that out of a pitcher and make him use that pitch more, and then you know what he doesn't do well. So then on the sides when we're working, then we can work on it. It's master your strength and strengthen your weaknesses, and the numbers make that a lot easier. It's just get the kids to execute it and believe in it.
Hey, Izzy, finally, you said that people have to watch you out there. You know what? We watched you pitch. We know how competitive you were and how important you were to those great Cardinal teams when you were a pitcher here. But we also know, all three of us here, how important it is for you to wear that red jacket. We're all thrilled. I love the fact that you're out there to greet the players. We don't have to watch you. We're honored to watch you out there on the field behind home plate before this game.
I'll give you a couple extra bucks next time I see you, Randy, for that, but thank you.
You're the best, brother. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and we'll see you over there.
All right, guys. Be good.
See you, Izzy. Take care. Jason Isringhausen, former Cardinal closer and Cardinal Hall of Famer and deserved Cardinal Hall of Famer. And Dan, you know Izzy as well as anybody and know how much that meant to him to be elected.
Yeah, he was on Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame ballot and was on it for 1 year. And he said that was an honor because they send you the list of all the players that have a chance to go in. And he got a handful of votes and then was off the ballot, did not have the 5% to continue. And he said it was an honor to get that, but he said, I got in this game to compete, to win, to have a chance to get to championships. But on the individual side of things, he said number one was to go into the Cardinal Hall of Fame. It means that much to him. So if you're a fan and you see him, give him a huge round of applause because this is something very special to him, and it's well-deserved.
Absolutely, and a local guy, Brighton, Illinois. Coming up, as the Cardinals start their home season, who's the one player that's most important to this team? We'll tell you who we think it is next on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Schumacher and Fish swing into St. Louis. Happy home opener. I'm Bradford Bruns with your SportsCenter update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Old friend Skip Schumacher and his struggling Marlins hit the Gateway City this afternoon for the Cardinals' first Busch Stadium test of 2024. Lance Lynn gets the starting honor shortly after 3 o'clock. He tossed 4 scoreless innings against L.A. last weekend. Yesterday, the Redbirds dropped their series finale versus San Diego 3-2. Hockey, the Blues take on 43-28 Nashville at 7 on 101 ESPN. The Kings just defeated Seattle, meaning Drew Bannister's bunch sits 5 points shy of the Western Conference's last wild card spot. The SportsCenter update was driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at Londoff.com and LondoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
101 ESPN is coming to you live from the
Okay, guys, here we go.
inside Ballpark Village for opening day in St. Louis.
Our Cardinals home opener coverage is powered by Swiss Air Heating and Cooling. Receive a $1,600 rebate and 16-year warranty on a new HVAC system at SwissAirSTL.com.
The Cardinal home opener starts at 3:15 this afternoon. It'll be Lance Lynn going for the Redbirds. And the Cardinals are, at least as we view them now, they're not going to be a 100-win team that blows away the division. They're going to have to be a team that is probably, if they're going to be in the playoffs, going to probably have to hunt for that playoff spot in the last week of the season. So with that being the case, we believe, Dan, who is the one most important player for this team?
For me, it's Brendan Donovan. And if he's at the top of the lineup and a table setter for Arenado and Goldie, and those guys need to – I can make a case, by the way, for every guy to be the most important on this team. But I'll go with Brendan Donovan. And if he's a table setter and his ability to move around the diamond, I think his versatility is very important. We're already seeing that with him getting starts in left. He can play second base, which I think he'll get more starts there. If Arenado needs a day off, he's at third. If you were put into a terrible situation, he can play short. But offensively, his ability with a high on-base percentage to get on and set the table, I'm going Brendan Donovan.
All right, Brooke.
Well, I was also going to just add to that, you can already tell the power that he's added going into this season, can't you?
A little bit, but I think more than anything, it's his ability to get on base. You know, I'm more concerned about that.
And I think, let me take a look. The reason he became so attractive 2 years ago was because his on base was 394.
Exactly.
And I believe that before yesterday's game, his on base in small sample size this year was 393.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my most important player for this season, I'm going to use yesterday's game, and I know it's just one game, but still, I'm going to use yesterday's game as an example because your best hitters had opportunities in that game and they couldn't capitalize. So I believe that the most important player, in my opinion, for the Cardinals this year is going to be Nolan Arenado. I told you guys this earlier. He hasn't hit a home run since August 19th. And right now, it's very early on in the season. We need that Tony La Russa mic drop a little bit right there.
First week of the season.
It's the first week of the season. I do get that. But still, as I mentioned, hasn't hit a home run since August 19th. And so far, going into the home opener today, he has just 2 runs off 6 hits, 3 RBI, and 29 at-bats. 207 average. You need Nolan Arenado to do better. Look at last season as an example. When he got off to a slow start, that was one of the issues that the Cardinals encountered last season. You need Nolan Arenado to be Nolan Arenado.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with Brendan Donovan. But here's the thing. If Arenado is not there at third base, you could move Nolan Gorman over there and squint your eyes and hope, right? Or put Donovan over there. If you lose Brendan Donovan, again, it's Gorman at second. Hopefully you have somebody at the top of the lineup. Who the hell plays shortstop and plays well for you if Mason Wynn isn't playing every day? All due respect to Brandon Crawford, but he's not going to slide in and play 29 out of 30 games for you if the other guy is hurt. The Cardinals kind of fell apart last year when they learned that DeYoung had lost a step and just couldn't play defense anymore, and their defense at shortstop was abysmal. And they need Mason Wynn. It'd be great to have his offense rise to what we think it's going to be. But, man, if they don't have that defense at shortstop, they aren't going anywhere.
We saw Brendan Crawford yesterday with a ball to his left that Mason Wynn gobbles that up with his range. So, yeah, I agree with that. And then on the other side, too, I'm going to go with the pitching aspect of this. I'm going to say Ryan Helsley. If
I was going to say him.
Yeah, I mean, if he's healthy, he had 41 blown leads last year. And if he's healthy, he shuts the door, and he can't be out for 4 of the 6 months. He's got to be there and available just about every single day. Have the guy at the back end of games to close him out.
You really do need him this season. And also staying on the pitching side, you need Sonny Gray. Speaking of guys staying healthy and be able to go out there. Now, I know that he isn't exactly a true ace in a lot of people's eyes. I'm looking at you, Randy.
Yes.
But he is the Cardinals ace, so you need him to be a part of the starting rotation. We saw yesterday with Zach Thompson. I don't know what exactly is going on there with him. Hopefully, it's just more mechanics and not something possibly worse there with him, but the velo is down, and Dan, you've been all over that. You need Sonny Gray because the starting rotation needs him as well. And I don't think that, look, if he goes out and did what he did last season where he has a 2.79 ERA, that would be fantastic, but if he at least can get close to replicating that, then that will be huge for the starting rotation.
Okay, we've listed 5 names and haven't mentioned Paul Goldschmidt yet.
Former MVP.
2 years ago, he was MVP. And
because it's once again, it's Mr. Consistent.
Right, and we take him for granted. Because, again, kind of like Wynn, and I thought about Goldie too, but if Goldie's not playing first base for you, who is?
Alec Burleson, and he ain't Goldie.
No.
Goldie ain't walking through that door.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So I think, did I just throw something? Oh, did I? I don't
know.
YouTube went crazy.
Oh,
it was the camera.
Am I throwing cameras around?
It's all right.
He just knocked the camera off.
How did I do it?
I have no idea,
I don't think
Randy.
you did, Randy. I think it was not
well.
hooked on as
I
stable as we thought.
Yeah.
I thought I was just...
It happens.
I thought I was being clumsy.
Now I have to go back and watch that on YouTube.
Yeah.
Everybody, please go look at the YouTube just so that you can see that moment.
I don't feel good about this at all.
It's fine, Randy.
It probably looked like an earthquake.
Well, that's what happens if you watch that replay. That's what happens to the Cardinals if Paul Goldschmidt isn't in the lineup.
Things go south in a hurry.
Exactly.
Things go south in a hurry. You're right. I mean, he's got to be a big part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be Luke and Baker. It's not going to be Jordan Walker. Because Goldie, defensively, he's still Gold Glove quality, and offensively, obviously, we know that what he's capable of doing.
So it's not going to be Walker.
No.
So you're disappointing about 30 people on the text line right now.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, you saw what happened last year when he hadn't played a game in the outfield, and then they put him in the outfield. I know you put everybody who can't play the field at first base. You don't want to do that.
No. I'm with you. And Goldie is such an important part of the offense, and it's to Brooks' point, it's 2 guys that have to be who they were, which is Arenado and Goldie. And if those 2 guys aren't, could be a long season offensively.
It really could be. And another point to Mason Wynn, you brought up with Brandon Crawford, but also we don't know when Tommy Edman's going to come back. Right. So that you don't even have that security there.
Yep. I feel really bad about that right now. I haven't talked to Tommy or anybody, but I know wrists. I know wrist injuries, and I'm kind of scared.
We said the other day, June 1st, maybe.
Maybe All-Star break?
All-Star break, who knows? But you need to have him at some point. He's a valuable guy.
Yeah, it is. We recorded with Bob Costas yesterday as he was on his way to do the Dodgers-Giants game, and obviously it's only 7:40. We aren't going to wake Bob up for Cardinal opening day in California. And Dan...
Why not?
Well, because he didn't want to be.
Oh, okay.
We know you have to run, but we're going to play the Bob Costas interview next. Have a great opening day.
You too, guys. Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.
No, you're the best, and we'll see you back in the studio tomorrow.
You got it.
Love
See you at
brother.
7 a.m.
Right,
Yep.
bye.
Thanks. Happy opening day
Happy opening day.
Danny Mac. And coming up next, we do have our it's an annual thing with us. It's our interview with Bob Costas on opening day for fans of the Cardinals. Next on 101 ESPN.
Guys, thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Bye, Dan. Have a good one.
Hey, Bradford.
Welcome back to the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brooke Grimsley, Randy Carricker. It is opening day in St. Louis, and pretty much every opening day we get a chance to visit on the celebrity line with the great Bob Costas. Robert, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Hey, Randy. How are you doing? Hi, Brooke.
Let's start with this. You've been here for opening day, and you've done a lot of opening days around America over the years. In your opinion, Bob, how does opening day at Busch Stadium stack up?
Right at the top. There may be some as good in their own way, but none better. It's because of the appreciation for baseball in St. Louis and the great history that the franchise has and the way the franchise honors its history. I think it would always have been this way, even if you had an NBA team and even if you still had an NFL team. Baseball would still be number one, but now especially it's just the Cardinals and the Blues, and of course there's interest in college sports, but baseball is supreme in St. Louis. In other places, there may be equal passion for baseball, but think about all the teams in New York or in Philadelphia or in Chicago or in Boston or in Los Angeles. So St. Louis is a city with a huge history in baseball and not as much on the sports docket to take attention away from baseball. So, I don't know any place where opening day, in Cincinnati was the first team in 1869, the first professional team. And for years and years, MLB scheduled it so that it would stand alone as opening day. And public schools actually had the day off in Cincinnati, and they would do a parade through the city to Crosley Field or to Riverfront Stadium. I'm not sure if they still do it now at the Great American Ballpark, but that's a good tradition.
It really is like a national holiday here. I know it might be hard to just pick one thing, but what is your favorite part? The Red Jackets, the Clydesdales, what is your favorite part about opening day here in St. Louis?
I think it's that. I've always had an affinity for baseball history, and baseball is the sport where history matters most. It has a place in all sports, but obviously it matters most in baseball. And the Cardinals do as good a job as any team, maybe better than any team, of honoring and maintaining and respecting their history. And when you see those generations of Cardinals with those red jackets, it's really something, and it just reinforces the connection between the team and the community.
Hey, Bob, one of the things that's happened here in the early season for the Cardinals is that they're moving runners over. They're getting them to third with less than 2 out and getting them home with less than 2 out. My introduction to really good baseball was Whitey Ball and the Cardinals winning in 1982.
Yes.
And we all loved that style. And we've seen now for the last year the running game kind of come back in. It feels kind of to me, and you're still doing a lot of games on MLB Network, it feels like even though we don't have the pitcher hitting anymore and that thought process isn't required anymore, at least some thought and athleticism is coming back into the game. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. It'll never be at the same level because the game has changed too much. And, of course, in the 80s, the Cardinals played on a carpet, and they had Coleman and they had Lonnie and Ozzie Smith, and they had Willie McGee and Tommy Herr could run. They had all the personnel. Now, you look at this present Cardinal team. Victor Scott II stole like 104 bases or something last year in the minor league, something like that. Eventually, he could be their greatest stolen base threat since Vince Coleman with that Whitey Herzog team. And Wynn can run and Walker can run. You look at those three guys, that's the future of the team. You don't know how quickly it will gel for all three of them. We know that Wynn has Gold Glove possibilities. We hope that he can hit a little bit. Walker showed flashes at the beginning of last year, and then when he came back from the minors, again, his defense and right field had improved. He's obviously got great power. We don't know how soon Scott's going to be able to play regularly in the major leagues, but his speed is a huge factor. And in the meantime, you hope that the guys at the corners who have been the cornerstones of the team, you hope that Goldschmidt and Arenado can give them a couple more good years, because without that, I just don't think that it'll all come together quickly enough for them to score enough runs over the course of the year.
Well, you just touched on that. Well, Bob, you talked a lot about the positional players. What do you think about the Cardinals' starting rotation that they've built going into the season and how it will pan out?
A lot of question marks. Sonny Gray, when healthy, obviously is a very, very good pitcher. And I have great respect for Miles Michaelis and Lance Lynn and what they've done in their careers, and they're gamers. They'll take the ball. but you hope that they're not just innings eaters, and that's important in modern-day baseball. They just give you innings, but they have to be effective innings. Lance Lynn's first outing was encouraging. No question about that. 5 good innings. Michael has struggled against the Dodgers, but I have a feeling that almost everybody's going to struggle against the Dodgers. Logan Webb, one of the best pitchers in the National League, struggled against the Dodgers the other night. I don't know how in the world anybody navigates that lineup. When you talk about, they talk about the Yankees' murderers row in 1927, and of course they had Gehrig and they had Ruth, and they had Tony Lazzari. This is a little history lesson here, Brooke. They had Tony Lazzari and Earl Combs and Bob Musial in the outfield, not to be confused with Stan Musial. But I can't think of a team top to bottom, maybe the 76 Reds when they had Rose, Bench, Morgan, and Foster, maybe that team, and they had Ken Griffey Sr. and Dan Dreesen and a few others. But I can't think of many teams. Cleveland's teams in the 1990s never won a World Series, but you think about that lineup with Lofton at the top and Manny Ramirez and Jim Thome. But I can't think of many lineups that I've seen or read about that would compare to this Dodger lineup.
And, Bob, especially the top 3 to me, Betts, Freeman, Ohtani, it's hard to imagine that there could have been a better 3. As Tony La Russa might have said, tied for first. But, man, those 3 together in a row are incredible.
Yeah, they are incredible. And all of them, and you know what I mean by this, Randy, they are very good baseball players. They're smart baseball players. They do little things. They take the extra base. They can steal you a base when it's needed. They're not going to make mental errors. Freddie Freeman is a marvel. He has power, yes, but he uses the entire field. He had a 1,000 OPS last year against left-handed pitching. And for the last 5 years, he's hit over 350 every year with runners in scoring position. He's just a great situational player, and so too is Betts, and so too is Ohtani. And think about this. The Dodgers have a lot of guys, Dustin May, Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, now on the injured list. They'll be back at some point during this season. Ohtani won't pitch until 2025 when he'll be added to that rotation. Last year, I realize this is about the Cardinals, but you asked about the Dodgers. Last year, the Dodgers in the offseason invested $1.1 billion in total in free agents. The other 29 teams combined invested 1.8. When a team is already this good and they have seemingly unlimited resources, it's almost not fair.
Just sticking with the Dodgers for a minute here, because it was one of the biggest stories and still is one of the biggest stories in Major League Baseball right now. What do you make of the whole Shohei Ohtani translator betting scandal?
I don't know what to make of it. I think there's lots of legitimate questions, but we have no definitive answers. And in place of that, for the time being, what you have is speculation. That speculation may be understandable. There are a number of possible scenarios here that make sense, but we don't know for sure which, if any of them, actually fit the facts. There's an ongoing FBI investigation. The IRS is involved, and, of course, MLB is conducting its own investigation. And if, in the worst-case scenario, there is some significant guilt, baseball-related, connected to Shohei Ohtani, then it's a major scandal. But by saying that, with a giant if in front of it, I'm not saying I believe that to be the case. I have an open mind on this. I just don't know where it's going to go.
That being said, Bob, we've already had players in the NFL get suspended. We had the Tim Donaghy situation in the NBA. We've had a player in the NHL, Evander Kane, who's had tremendous problems with gambling. And you said this a few years ago when at the outset of legalized sports gambling, it was predictable that things like this were going to happen. And even if there isn't a Shohei Ohtani scandal, the speculation might be just as bad.
Oh, yeah. Look, there have always been conspiracy-minded fans. There have always been people who thought, well, you know, the NBA wanted the Lakers rather than the Sacramento Kings to make it into the NBA Finals, and therefore that block that could have been a charge went that way. There's always going to be that kind of thing. And now, with the betting, the sort of specter of betting, including people who have a bet themselves, and so their relationship to it is different. It's not the previous rooting relationship. It's more a transactional relationship. If your bet matters more than your emotional connection to your team, there's going to be all kinds of conspiracy theories flying around, whether there's any real evidence to back it up. What you really have here, and I don't know how much it applies necessarily in baseball, but with the ability to bet on your phone and to have all kinds of prop bets, that's where the chance for something untoward happening seems to be better. Now you're not dependent on the outcome of the game to win a bet. It's just for a prop bet within the game. I'm forgetting the name of the Toronto Raptors player.
Jonte Porter. He's a Mizzou kid.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right, so not a star player, and let's say the prop bet is over-under. He scores 6 points in the game. That's completely under the radar, even for Raptors fans. Now, what is alleged is that he left the game twice before he got to 6 points, or whatever the line was, before he got to that point, with an injury that wasn't major. Just like, hey, my hamstring tightened up, or whatever it is. Now, does that mean that Porter's guilty of something? No. But is that a plausible scenario with everybody able to bet and have like 24 different bets going on the same game with prop bets? Are those things plausible scenarios? Yeah.
Bob Costas with us on the opening drive. More coming up after this on opening day on 101 ESPN.
This Bud's for you.
Bob Costas is with us. It's opening day for the Cardinals down at Busch Stadium. And, Bob, I want to go back to something we talked about a little bit earlier. You mentioned Freddie Freeman's OPS of 1,000 against left-handed pitching, which is great. And I don't think that that's an illegitimate statistic, but I have trouble wrapping my arms around the fact that a guy like Wilson Contreras, who's the Cardinals' second-best OPS guy at 863, has a 176 batting average. Do you have trouble dealing with that and coming to grips with a guy that isn't hitting particularly well but still has the high OPS?
If I had to look at one number, especially if you're talking about historically significant hitters, just one number, OPS would be that number because it comes on base, which is batting average plus walks, on base plus slugging. So it's the best combination of reaching base and reaching base with power that you have. But does that mean you should ignore other metrics? What if a guy strikes out too much? So in certain situations, you'd rather pitch to that guy than someone whose OPS is not as high. What if he's a bad base runner? Whatever it might be. But I think OPS is an important indicator, and it's the way I feel about analytics overall. Indispensable, very important. No team should be without it in its front office. No broadcaster should be without it. But is it always definitive? No.
Bob, I want to get your thoughts on free agency. It didn't exactly go as expected for some of the big-name free agents represented by Scott Boras. What did you think happened there?
Well, I think in some cases, Boras and his clients, and of course Boras overall has been tremendously successful, that may have misjudged the market. Just one example is Blake Snell. Blake Snell has won 2 Cy Young Awards. Every other season in his career, outside of those 2 excellent seasons, has been closer to average than excellent. And he thought, coming off his second Cy Young, maybe he gets something closer to Garrett Cole money or Justin Verlander money or Max Scherzer, whatever it might be. But the market said no. And then eventually the Giants, now managed by Bob Melvin, who had Snell in San Diego, they jump in there with a reasonable deal. They'll roll the dice at about $30 million a year, but only for 2 years. Matt Chapman, same thing. If Chapman had hit 36 home runs last year for Toronto, the way he did a few years before for Oakland, to go with his Gold Glove defense, there would have been a lot of suitors. But there weren't as many because after last April, he hit 205 for the rest of the season. Still played a great third base. And the Giants, laying in the weeds, kind of interesting, they made a play for everybody over the last few years. For Bryce Harper, for Aaron Judge, for Ohtani, for Carlos Correa, and they came up empty every time. But this year, they kind of played a different poker game, and they made the play late for Blake Snell, for Matt Chapman, for Jorge Soler, and for Jun-Hoo Lee, who they brought over from Korea, who is said to be perhaps the answer in center field and in the leadoff spot for them. I know all this stuff because I'm in the car on the way to Dodger Stadium, and they're playing the Giants tonight. So I am filled with Giant knowledge that I otherwise would not have.
Well, we are seeing, outside of everything that's happened with Scott Boras, a lot of one-year deals right now, and I think a lot of people speculating that maybe that has something to do with the future of the TV deals, RSNs, everything that's been going on with that currently. How do you see that panning out for Major League Baseball and getting broadcasts out there for everyone?
I don't want to speculate on something that I don't really have a handle on, but obviously it is a factor, and there are going to be some markets that just don't have the wherewithal. There's an increasing gap. Baseball had closed it, not perfect, but much better than it used to be. They closed it in recent years, and now that gap seems to be widening again. And one of the big factors is local television, local broadcast revenue. That's the big difference between MLB and the NFL. And nobody is surprised that Kansas City has been to 4 Super Bowls and won 3 of them. But they'd be very surprised if the Royals went to 4 World Series and won 3 of them in the same cluster of years. People would be very surprised if the Brewers, who have been good, but if the Brewers became a powerhouse the way the Packers were during the Aaron Rodgers years, that would be surprising. But not surprising because of the NFL's financial structure. And nobody says, oh gosh, if Buffalo and Kansas City play in the conference championship game, that will hurt the ratings. But they do say that in baseball because baseball, while very, very popular locally for most teams, there are exceptions, but regionally and locally, baseball does very well overall. But the national appeal of baseball, I'm sad to say, has been reduced. And so there's always fear that if small market teams, no matter how worthy, make it deep into the playoffs or into the World Series, teams that don't have a national profile, that will negatively impact the ratings. The NFL never has to worry about that.
Bob Costas, I want 2 stories from you before we wrap this up. Number 1, you're, as you mentioned, as we speak, you're on your way to Dodger Stadium for Dodgers Giants. And I think about you at Dodger Stadium, and I think about the 1988 World Series. Last time the Dodgers won a full season World Series, and in a roundabout way, Tommy Lasorda gave you credit for the Dodgers' victory. How did that come about for people that aren't aware of it?
Well, before game 4 of that World Series, with Dodgers leading 2-1, Gibson was hurt. The only at-bat of the entire series was the miracle home run, the pinch hit home run off Eckersley with 2 out in the bottom of the ninth in game 1. Gibson was out. Then Mike Marshall went out, and they fielded a lineup that looked like a B game in spring training. Their entire lineup, and it was a DH game in the American League Park back in '88, their entire lineup had fewer home runs than Jose Canseco, and I think Mark McGwire had more home runs that year than the entire Dodger lineup had. So I come on the air on the pregame show, and I say, I lay it out, the injuries and all the rest. And they've got Franklin Stubbs. They've got Rick Dempsey, who was really good with the Orioles toward the end of his career, and Alfredo Griffin, same thing with the Blue Jays, tail end of his career now at shortstop with the Dodgers. They got Mickey Hatcher, who hit 1 home run the whole season, and he hit 2 in that World Series. They got Mike Davis, who had 27 homers as an A, but I think had 3 homers and batted 190 that year as a Dodger. They got Dave Anderson at third base. What the heck is going on here, right? And this team is in the World Series up 2-1. I didn't say it quite that way, but I laid out those facts. And I said, pitching aside, and Dodger pitching is excellent, this may be the weakest lineup ever to take the field for a World Series game. Not only was that an accurate statement, it's what you're supposed to do in setting the stage for the game. And when the Dodgers then won the game, with Lasorda pulling every rabbit out of the hat, squeeze plays, gives the guy the hit sign on 3-0, hits a home run, stolen bases, hit and runs, every managerial trick he could pull, NBC then decides that the player of the game is actually Tommy Lasorda. So Marv Albert interviews Tommy on the field, and Lasorda opens by saying, first of all, you should give the MVP to Bob Costas. And if you know Tommy Lasorda, you know he was just, it's just a thing. It's a Tommy Lasorda thing. Anything to fire up his team. So apparently, while I'm saying this, standing on the first baseline 15 minutes before the first pitch, they're in the clubhouse, and the TV is on, and Lasorda says, see that? Even effing Costas doesn't give us a chance. And according to him, he then starts a chant, kill Costas, kill Costas. This is a lovely sentiment, no question. And Marv Albert, with his dry sense of humor, when Lasorda related that, this is live on the field after Lasorda relates that, and Marv goes, yes, that has been mentioned many times in our NBC meetings. So I'm on the other side of the field. So I hear all this, and I decide I'll play into it. So I walk across the field. I don't know that NBC's cameras are following me. And I come up to Lasorda, and he goes, thanks, Bob. I'll let you know when we need you again. Big smile on his face, shakes my hand. But the way these stories, even pre-internet, the way these stories get told, like a game of telephone, my good pal Tony La Russa has heard the story that I really was in cahoots with Lasorda, and that he arranged to have me say this as if I would, just to give him a rallying cry. So now I got to go into La Russa's office. He's got a 104-win team that's down 3-1 to this underdog. He's not in the best possible mood to begin with. I have to go into his office and explain to him what happened. But we all knew that with Hershiser waiting, after Gibson's miracle home run in Game 1, you got Hershiser, who was unhittable down the stretch in his Cy Young season. So he's going to pitch Game 2. Right there, you think the Dodgers have a chance to go to Oakland up 2-0, and they did. And now Hershiser's going to pitch Game 5, and he closes it out in Oakland. So nobody in their right mind was giving the Dodgers no chance entering Game 4. I was just trying to frame what the circumstances are. Now, here we are going on, 35 years later or whatever it is. There are still Dodger fans and Dodger players. I saw Rick Dempsey during the past offseason. He said, well, I guess we proved you wrong. You said we were the worst team ever in the World Series. Rick, get
3 minutes.
That's not what I said. And there are Dodger fans who actually think that, even though the story has been told and clarified many times over. But what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? It's one of the all-time
That's
greats.
the full story.
Yeah.
And now, do you have any commercials on your show? How are you going to play?
We don't, Bob. Not when you're on. We'll get to those at another time. And Bob, one other thing, because you're going to get a lot of phone calls in June, because incredibly, and I can still see this day in my mind's eye, June is going to be the 40th anniversary of the Sandberg game.
That's right.
And I remember I was producing that game for Jack and Mike on KMOX, and I remember you coming into the booth before the game, and we were talking about the Cardinals, and just that day, and Willie McGee, people might not be aware of this, hit for the cycle that day. I think even though the Cardinals lost that game, I think that's my most enjoyable regular season baseball game ever.
It's certainly the greatest regular season game I've ever broadcast because of all the elements. You know, it's Wrigley Field on a beautiful, perfect Saturday afternoon. It's the Cardinals and the Cubs with all that history and the rivalry. A lot of red in the stands at Wrigley, just as a lot of Cub blue in the stands at Busch Stadium. And it's the game of the week when the game of the week meant something different, when the entire baseball world was focused on that game. Those Saturday afternoon games that I was lucky enough to broadcast with Tony Kubek or Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola got ratings that exceed hit primetime shows in the present television universe. So that was the game that put Sandberg on the map and kind of announced the woebegone Cubs as, wait a minute, they're a contender all of a sudden. And they did win the division, and they got to within a game of the World Series before they lost to San Diego in the LCS, and Sandberg did win the MVP. So it's the signature game of a Hall of Fame.
1 minute.
Have there been other games since then that, if you just looked at the box score and looked at all the circumstances, had as many twists and turns and as many heroic performances? Of course. You've got 4 decades of baseball since. But none of them in the regular season had the surrounding circumstances that highlighted this game the way it was highlighted.
Robert, it's always great to hear your voice. Are we going to see here in St. Louis? Does MLB Network have the Cardinals scheduled after a 71-win season last year?
There's one
30
on the schedule, and I think they did it just as a favor to me. But it's June 24th in St. Louis, and hopefully they'll play well enough in the second half that I'll be back again.
All right. Hey, thanks so much. We always appreciate your time, and we're going to get some commercials in here. But thanks for the time, and thanks for the stories, Bob.
The entire next hour is nothing but commercials.
It's a typical Bob Costas radio show.
Well, thank you. I'll take a figurative bow.
Thank you, Robert. Take care.
See ya.
See you later.
That's the great Bob Costas on 101 ESPN. He's always fun, and you'll be able to hear that later on the podcast. Brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Center at 101ESPN.com and on the 101 ESPN app. Next, Cardinals President of Baseball Operations, John Mozeliak, on the opening drive.
by Sumner One.
Good to have you with us from the Budweiser Brew House at Ballpark Village on 101 ESPN. Brooke Grimsley, Randy Carricker with you on the opening drive, and we head to the celebrity line now. And joining us on this home opener Thursday is the Cardinal President of Baseball Operations, John Mozeliak. Mo, happy home opener. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, and exciting day here in St. Louis.
It is, and I have enjoyed the style of ball that your team has played with the athleticism and the youth of athleticism. You know that's the kind of ball that I and a lot of St. Louisans like, and it's been fun to watch, so congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. Obviously, a lot of how this roster came together at the end of camp was a little unexpected. Clearly we were dealing with some injuries, but, I think early on, if you had said to me, hey, if you have a 3-4 road trip, given how we had to start out in LA and San Diego, I think I would have taken that. So, yeah, I think net pretty happy about what we're seeing and where we are.
Well, Mo, as you mentioned, you don't like the injuries happening, but it did open the door even more so for Victor Scott II, a guy who is quickly becoming a fan favorite. What have you seen from him so far this season?
I think like any time you thrust a young player that does not have a lot of experience in professional baseball to the major league level in a role that is demanding. Center field is a very important position. Obviously, you got to be a major contributor defensively. And then there's also the other aspect of this is just how he's going to hold up from an offensive standpoint. And, there's going to be some growing pains there just because he just hasn't had the opportunity to hit and get the experience. But I think overall he's held up really well. And I do think the biggest change, too, in what you're seeing out of him from where he was like a year ago, I remember being up in Peoria late April, early May last year and watching his at-bats, and it was more of a slap-type hitter versus now you're seeing a little bit more strength, kind of getting behind the ball, staying inside the ball. The other night he had that double, which, he centered it. That was great to see. And so you combine all of this with his athleticism, and, you can see that there might be some staying power here. And I think from a fan standpoint, from a team standpoint, it's been exciting to watch.
Speaking of that, with Lars Nootbaar, it seems like on the way here soon, and with Dylan Carlson not far behind, I'm sure. How do you see this outfield looking like with those players returning?
Well, I definitely think Lars is a lot closer than where Dylan is at this point. But my hope is with Lars is that he can get at least through the weekend with Memphis and have some success down there, but also show that he's feeling good and ready to take that next step to the big league. So that's what we're going to be looking for over the weekend. But in terms of when he returns, what does that look like? Yeah, I definitely think he's going to, man one of the corners at this point, and then we're going to have to mix and match as best we can. But I'm always hesitant to answer these questions because every time I think we have something figured out, something else happens. So I think the best thing here is just to be patient. Fingers crossed that Lars has a productive 4 or 5 days with the Memphis club and then make for some tough decisions when he returns.
Hey, Mo, you right now have an exceedingly young starting lineup with Walker, Wynn, Victor Scott II, and Nolan Gorman at 23. I kind of think, in my opinion, in my observation over the years, that growing pains are to be expected. What concerns do you have about these young players? And they're young, like you said, with Scott. He's only got a year and a half of pro ball under his belt. What should our concern level be about the growing pains of these young players?
Well, I think they all have different stories, right? And we touched on Victor Scott in the sense of just not a whole lot of bulk in professional baseball, but he has a lot of other assets that can help sustain success at the big league level with speed and defense. So that gives you a little bit more breathing room. And I think like someone like a Jordan Walker, for example, I think we would all agree that so far the returns on his defensive improvements look real. But now what's he going to do offensively? Is he making the adjustments that he's seeing that pitchers are making with him? And so if he's able to hold his own from an offensive standpoint, because obviously last year when he made our club, one of the reasons he made our club was because how he was swinging the bat and his presence in the batter's box. So it's really hard to judge after 7 games, but I think that's something to look for as you're thinking about it. And then with regard to somebody like Gorman, who you brought up, I think people don't realize how young he really is. But, clearly we want to see strikeouts drop, but getting back to where he was last summer, where he can be a middle-of-the-order type hitter and have that impact is very important. I think from a defensive standpoint, he's doing very well. And then Mason Wynn, I think the one thing that we were able to take advantage of our horrible season last year was to bring him up. And, hopefully a lot of those growing pains he experienced last year are behind him. And I think from a defensive standpoint, he's looking very strong. I think from an offensive standpoint, he's making positive contact, and I think he's having some productive at bats. So the more he can do that, the better off we'll all be. So right now I'm not overly concerned with this entire group, as you mentioned their age and experience, but it is something that we have to watch throughout this year.
And I guess the reason I ask a question like that is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but in talk radio we tend to be reactionary a little bit. And you,
no.
Yeah, now and then, Mo.
Really?
But you use that.
I got to tune in more.
You use that term, be patient, and at times we're 7 games in with a really young team, and this team to me looks like one that you have to be patient and watch ascend. This isn't a finished product by any stretch of the imagination, I guess is my point.
No, I would agree with that, and the fact that you have Sonny Gray, Middleton, O'Brien, Tommy Edman, Newbar, Carlson, all on the IL. If we were talking about this club 2 months ago, we would have assumed they would have been playing. So, I think we're having to zig and zag a little bit, which is never ideal to open the season. But, this league is competitive, it's hard, and no one wants to hear excuses. So, these guys are getting an opportunity. Let's see what they do with it. And if they step up and run with it, then we're going to have some tough questions to answer down the road.
Now, I know you were talking about the young lineup, but looking at things defensively, and I know you touched on a little bit there, but one of the low lights last season was kind of the uncharacteristic issues with the Cardinals defense. And I know that injuries played a big part of that last season, but you have some injuries going in this season, and it looks like the defense has already improved.
Well, I think part of that is obviously Jordan Walker spent a lot of time working on his defense this past offseason, and I think we're seeing some positive returns from that. And obviously when you put somebody like a Victor Scott in center field, he's going to cover a lot of ground that maybe we weren't going to have covered in previous seasons. So, overall, I think this team understands the importance of defense. We have a lot of our pitchers pitch to contact, so being able to catch the ball is really important. And, after 7 games, it does look like it's something that we have improved on, but it was very intentional, and hopefully we'll see that over the course of the 162.
John Mozeliak, the Cardinal president of baseball operations, with us. Brooke Grimsley, Randy Carricker on 101 ESPN. And Mo, you and I were at an event actually before last season where you talked about getting more innings out of starting pitchers, and it didn't work last year. As you talk to other people around the industry, because you're kind of going old school with the innings and not as much in your starting rotation of the swing and miss. What's the reaction around the industry been? Is there skepticism among other people?
Well, I don't know. I do think people look at the guys that we brought in and they see why we can sort of talk about this or believe in it. They're people that understand what it's like to pitch over 162. And, I think when you look at our rotation right now and you saw how Gibby and others have taken the ball and run with it, that's really positive. And then you compare that to maybe somebody like a Zach Thompson, who's obviously younger, doesn't have the pedigree or the resume these other guys have. But he has really good stuff. But the thing he's got to learn to do is be able to throw more strikes, get in that zone a little bit more. And if he does that, then he's going to find himself where he can go deeper into a game. So yesterday's start, when he's 30-plus pitches in the first inning, that's very alarming. And for him to grind out 5 was impressive. But, I do think he's capable of being better than what we've seen early on. But the difference is he's going to have to get back into a zone where he is throwing to the strike zone and really not having pitches that are not going to be chased or swung at. So he can tighten that up, and I think if he does that, then he'll be a great resource for us throughout the year.
Mo, while we're all waiting to see Sonny Gray return here soon, you were able to see him in action up close and personal during spring training prior to his injury. What stood out to you the most about Sonny Gray, whether it be on or off the mound?
Well, I think one observation is just how strategic he is about going about his day-to-day job. There's all people sort of like understand how to like sort of channel and improve what they need to do, but he actually vocalizes it. And I think like it's just natural for other people now to just sort of learn how he thinks, and I think it's been like an amazing mentor for a lot of our pitchers, especially our younger ones that are trying to figure out like what should their process look like, what should they do each day, and I think watching him has just been amazing for some of our younger pitchers. But the one thing I would say is like this is a very talented guy. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's looking forward to getting back here. I think he'll start on Tuesday in Memphis, and then ultimately, if that goes well, he'll return to our rotation. So yesterday we had a pivot with him. He went down to Springfield and threw a sim game there. So he got his work in. So right now he's on schedule to hopefully be able to join us the following weekend. So fingers crossed.
And Mo, with him already having the injury, and hopefully he'll be back and he'll be able to make as many starts as possible for you. But as we talked to Kyle Gibson, we use the term seasoned for this rotation because of the well-seasoned nature of this group. How will you approach getting one more starter in here? Do you always have your eyes open for one more guy that can sit at the top of your rotation?
Well, that's a little tricky of a question. Like, are you saying like trying to trade for something?
Oh yeah. That would be that would be the. I guess you keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Impactful trades in the next 2 months are going to be pretty rare.
Right.
But obviously seeing how things shake out throughout the season will dictate if we feel like we need to go to market and do something. But I certainly hope we're tasked with that challenge at some point, because that means we're playing good baseball and, we're buying instead of selling, which would be awesome.
And I also wanted to ask you this, and I asked Bill DeWitt III earlier, and I know that you've heard this, whether it's from fans or media, but there is this thought process out there that the Cardinals, they don't really want to compete. All they want to do is get 3 million fans through the gate, and that's what makes them happy, is 3 million fans through the gate. Not that 3 million fans doesn't make you happy. But can you just address that thought process that shows up with our text line with social media, that the Cardinals, all they want to do is get 3 million fans through the gates?
Yeah, like obviously when I hear things like that, I think it's kind of hurtful, because, I spend many sleepless nights trying to figure out how to find a way to win. Obviously we're not happy with what happened last year. We decided we were going to be very aggressive this offseason and try to put in the right people to get us back to our winning ways. But our goal is to play deep into October. I don't want to come out and say our goal is solely to win the World Series, because as you know, that's a very, very difficult thing. But you definitely want to put a team out there that you feel like can compete and give you a chance to win, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. And when I hear people say that we're just not willing to spend, or we're not drafting well enough, or we're not trading well enough, I mean, look, there's always ways to do things better. I'm not going to say there's not, but to say that we're not trying to put a winning product out there, I think is rather insulting to someone like myself, because we certainly are, and we want to put a product out there that not only we're proud of, but so our fans can be as well.
And by the way, I'm not around nearly as much as I used to be around the ballpark, but I've seen you some days after tough losses. That is not hyperbole when you say that you've had sleepless nights, is it?
No, it's not. It's like, we care. We genuinely care. We want to win. And so when people think of this as solely like, look, we're just playing to be 500 or to just collect our money and move on. I mean, like, look, this team what we bring in, we spend. And, we're trying to do that as best we can. Now, you can have people argue with some of the decisions we make, and that's fair game. But in terms of us as from an ownership group and a management standpoint, our foot's on the gas, and we're trying to do the best we can in the market we play in.
Well, Mo, as we said at the beginning, I'm finding it a fun team to watch. I love the athleticism, and I like watching a team grow. That's one of my favorite things about the journey, and I'm a journey guy. I love watching young players ascend, so I'm really excited about the group that you have on the field, your starting nine. I think it's going to be fun, and congratulations again on putting this group together, and hopefully they'll be able to do what we all want them to do, and that's win big.
Yeah, love it. Thank you, and you guys have fun today.
All right, you too, Mo. Thank you very much. That's John Mozeliak, the Cardinals president of baseball operations on 101 ESPN.
That was a great interview. I think that we learned a lot, too, about his thought process with everything going on there and also the feelings. I think it's important for you to ask that question, Randy, and I'm glad that you did. I know you did earlier with Bill DeWitt III, but also with John Mozeliak, because we see it all the time. We see it on the text lines. You see it on social media where fans feel like maybe they could make more aggressive moves or maybe they don't possibly care as much about this team. And I thought that was a very candid answer from Mo.
And I think we just need to connect the dots here. Why do 3 million people go through the gates? Mm-hmm. Why do people buy tickets? Because the team is successful. If the team isn't successful, they aren't idiots. They know that people won't buy tickets. And where we're sitting, Ballpark Village, the Cardinals own part of Ballpark Village, a large part of Ballpark Village. They and the Cordish Company out of Baltimore. To get people into this building, they need people to walk into that building. And the way to get people into that building is to win. Now, do they always go about it the right way? No. Do I like the way they spend their money? No. But the fact of the matter is, I think it is kind of disingenuous to think that they don't want to win, because if they don't win, then you don't get 3 million through the gates like you had in the 90s or the 70s, and you don't get people into this facility, Ballpark Village.
Speaking of which, you have the Marlins coming in who are 0-7 going into this home opener today against the Cardinals. And look at what's going on with them right now. Totally two different franchises and organizations, of course, but right now what they're doing, it seems like they're going through a complete teardown.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
What I'm saying is that's an organization that you could possibly say doesn't care as much about their fans and winning and putting a good product out there.
Bad is relative, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Obviously, last year was horrible for the Cardinals, 71 wins, but they had a winning season every year since 2007. For Miami, that was a lot of fun last year. All they did was make the playoffs. We make the playoffs and get knocked out by the Phillies, and it's a disaster. And it was a disaster to get knocked out by the Phillies in 2 games a couple of years ago. So it's all relative to expectations.
But then they move on from Kim Ng during the offseason, and now they're making other big changes as well.
And, yeah, you mentioned teardown. They're probably going to try to go the way that Tampa Bay has, but the only team that it's worked for the way that Tampa Bay does it is Tampa Bay. You see the teams that steal the Tampa Bay guys, and it just hasn't worked for other franchises like that. Coming up next from Ballpark Village, we're going to talk a little bit more about opening day. We are brought to you today by Budweiser, Holiday World and Splash and Safari, and Swiss Air Heating and Cooling at the Budweiser Brew House at Ballpark Village. How much of a role can small ball play in baseball these days and for these Cardinals? That's next on 101 ESPN.
ESPN Sports Center.
Busch Stadium back in business shortly. I'm Bradford Bruns with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. This afternoon at 3:15, the Cardinals open their 2024 home schedule versus Miami. The Marlins haven't won a game thus far, while St. Louis just took 2 of 3 from San Diego. Yesterday did yield a 3-2 loss, with Zach Thompson falling to 0-2. Lance Lynn starts contest number 8. Elsewhere around the division last night, Cincinnati beat Philly 4-1, and Chicago outslugged Colorado 9-8. Puck, St. Louis drops the puck against Nashville later. Chris Kerber brings you the play-by-play shortly after 7 on 101 ESPN. The Blues remain 5 points behind LA as regards the Western Conference's final wildcard slot. This Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at Londoff.com and LondoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
101 ESPN is broadcasting live.
Okay, guys, here we go.
It's inside Ballpark Village for the Cardinals home opener.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Holiday World and Splash and Safari. Feast on fun this summer with the all-new Good Gravy roller coaster.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Take it.
The Dodgers lead the National League with a record of 7-2, followed by the Pirates, Brewers, and Reds. And then the Cubs. Those are the next 4 best records in the National League Central teams. Interestingly, the Brewers and Reds and Nationals are top 3 in the National League in stolen bases. And you wonder if Brooke, and I know this is a very small sample size, but we saw what happened to Cincinnati last year when they brought up Ellie De La Cruz. We saw what happened with the Diamondbacks when they started running against Philadelphia in the playoffs. And I am reaching the point now that the rules changes have changed the game to the point where if you're willing to risk an out here or there, to try to steal a base, hit and run, use your athleticism, that it can help you win. And when you look at what's happening with sacrifices, when you look at what's happening with stolen bases, and teams using the running game, there seems to be a correlation between offensive success and running.
There is. And also it's recognizing the talent that you have, the athleticism that you have available for your team. And they had that last season. Tommy Edman is fast. You also have Mason Wynn, who is fast, who came up later in the season. Jordan Walker as well. You have some young athleticism, but you have it even more so this season, especially with the skill set that you have of Victor Scott II, who is now a part of your everyday lineup and looks like he will be your center fielder at least for a while. Just going back to the Mozeliak comments, it kind of made it seem like that even he realized that it would be hard to send him down.
It seems like it, right. And the guy's going to get better. He, for as little time, and that was my concern, as you know, about having him here, as little time as he has as a professional baseball player. He was drafted in June of 2022, July at the All-Star break. So he's got August and September of 2022 and then last year in the minor leagues. That's all of his professional time until he got to the majors. But he seems to be very polished and certainly isn't overwhelmed by the idea of being here.
No, he's very confident. You can tell that. And also his ability to steal a bag, that is something that I think that you have to utilize this season, because we talked about that. Randy, how many times last year did we talk about wanting to see them just manufacture any sort of momentum in any way, whether that's stealing a bag or manufacturing runs in different ways when you're talking about the small ball there? And Victor Scott II, with him available now, you can really utilize that. So I like that we've already seen that early on. I know that we talked about it the other day, but that game where you had the way that they were able to score, and that was Monday's game, I believe, Tuesday's game.
Yeah.
Tuesday's game that they were able to win. The way that they were able to score that first run of the game, that was a lot of Victor Scott and really utilizing his power. That hustle double that you saw from him, not many players, I believe, in Major League Baseball would be able to pull that off. And then you had the bunt by Ciani that moved Scott over to third, and then you had Wynn with that sac fly. While it was just one run, it still really got things going momentum-wise for them.
It did. And
it opened the door.
Right, and that's one of the reasons that it'll be fun to watch as Wynn and Scott progress. If they can get on base, they can be such difference makers. It's notable that the Cardinals only have, despite our interest in the running game so far and our love of the running game so far, they've only stolen 2 bases. And I mentioned the Reds, they lead the majors with 11. They're tied with Milwaukee. Washington has stolen 10. Cleveland has stolen 9. Tampa has stolen 9. What do those franchises have in common? Reds, Brewers, Nationals, Guardians, Rays. None of them are big money teams.
No.
So,
but young talent.
Right. But if you can't spend the money to hit home runs like the Dodgers do, you find an alternative way to score runs. And if you have young athleticism, put it to work.
You do. But still, at the end of the day, something that we saw come to a head in yesterday's game is that you still do need your best hitters to really show up. There was opportunities they had yesterday, and they were not able to capitalize on it. By the way,
could have won that game easily.
Just something to watch here, because I brought this up about the strikeouts. 11 more strikeouts at the plate yesterday for the Cardinals. They're now tied second in the league, averaging now 11 strikeouts per game. Do you have any concerns there with that?
I do, yeah. And like Mo said about Gorman, he needs to do a better job of getting his bat on the ball. Some of that is attributable to youth and lack of experience. But the big boys need to get their bat on the ball, and they need, you can't have back-to-back. You had runners at you had the back-to-back hit by pitches, right, for Wynn and Donovan. Or it was Scott and Donovan. I was hoping that the Cardinals would have run with those two, try to double steal.
Mm-hmm.
You get a fortunate run because Goldie hits the ground ball to short, and then with Goldie at first, Arenado hits into the double play. The first one should have been a double play.
Yes.
It was a misplay, and then the second one should not have. It was a double play. So you can't have your big guys hitting the ball to the shortstop when you have runners in scoring position.
No, you can't have that happen. And that's hopefully maybe Nolan Arenado. I know that he is very streaky at times. We've seen that through the course of his career. But still, at the same time, you want to see him break out sooner rather than later. Maybe they can during the series with the Marlins.
Got to improve that launch angle. Coming up next on 101 ESPN, we're going to head down the stretch before BK and Ferrari with a little rock and roll. Stick around.
The Blues.
That's what I'm about to call.
By Sumner One. I want to rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
Time for a quick rock and roll here on 101 ESPN. Matthew, what do you got for us?
Well, let's just remember how lucky we are to be here for Cardinals opening day because, well, fans in Oakland aren't going to have that for very much longer because the Oakland A's have just announced that they will be playing the 2025 through 2027 seasons in Sacramento, California. They will play at Sutter Health Park, the 14,000 capacity home of the AAA Sacramento Rivercats. My only thought on this one is I understand why you do it if you're Sacramento for the economics, but this is a city that a few years ago just got done fighting to keep the Kings in Sacramento. So it seems a little hypocritical to me that they would immediately reach out and grab somebody else's team like that.
Well, the A's wanted to move to Sacramento, but the Giants say that that's our territory, and they wouldn't allow a move. Now, Oracle Park is 8 miles away from the Oakland Coliseum, and the Giants Stadium is 8 miles away. This would be like 50 miles away, or 75, about a 45-minute drive, I guess, so an hour virtually. And the Giants said, well, that's our territory, but they weren't worried about Oakland. So I wonder how the Giants feel about this, at least for those years of the A's still being in their market.
What about how the players feel about this? You're going to be playing in a minor league park, and what is that going to look like for them? It seems like the players, I feel for them so much because I also don't know if you have seen, Rocc and I were talking about this the other day, about kind of the conspiracy theory surrounding the A's right now where some of the players have been caught wearing this wristband that's in support. It's called the Last Dive
Bar.
Last Dive Bar, and it was basically, what was the Last Dive Bar mean?
I remember, I can't remember the story behind all but it's connected to the Oakland leaving, and pretty much their best young player, one of the only people who was hitting on the entire roster, gets sent down very conspicuously right after the start of the season when he gets seen on camera wearing the bracelet.
Yeah, interesting.
This is a terrible look by Fisher.
Now,
by the way,
it is, but you know what? I guarantee you that Sacramento ballpark is better than the Oakland ballpark.
That is true, very much so. But still, for these players, everything they've been through with that.
Oh, and then they have to move for a couple of, 3 years.
I actually just got a couple friends that just texted me and said we went to a game in that park, and it's actually super nice for its size. Here's Rob Manfred, by the way, on the news. On behalf of all MLB, I want to express my appreciation to West Sacramento, Sutter Health Park, and the Kings in the greater Sacramento region for their excitement to host the A's for interim play as the new A's permanent home is built in Las Vegas. So obviously still 25 through 27, but then still the plan is for Vegas, and good for the MLB for ripping it out of the Oakland A's.
Bad look for MLB, bad look for the NHL to be playing at the ASU Arena.
I was about to say, I was like, are the A's now the Coyotes, basically,
well,
of
but
baseball?
At least the Coyotes players got to stay in their houses, right?
That's true.
The A's are now, they're hopscotching over the country. It's kind of like when the Titans moved from Houston and went to Memphis first. Mm-hmm. So it's what a hassle for the players and the fans. It's just, it's really a bad look for baseball.
It's disappointing. And by the way, I just want to throw out to everybody, great job by everybody back in our studio, because usually you have to wait a couple hours, but right now if you want to dive into any of our interviews from today, they are currently right now live on 101 ESPN. So they're all up, ready to go right now. You can dive in, obviously. Bob Costas, Bill DeWitt III, John Mozeliak, Jason Isringhausen, Greg Amsinger, and Bernie Federko, all up right now to listen to it.
Was that Brunsey or was that Grant?
Brunsey and Ryder were both working very diligently.
How could I forget Ryder? Ryder, if you hear me, you're amazing.
He is amazing. Great job by those guys getting us on the air back at the studio. Great job by Dodie Rallman getting us on the air here at the Budweiser Brewhouse. Thanks to the folks at the Budweiser Brewhouse and Ballpark Village. BK and Ferrario with Tanner coming up next. Our thanks to Danny Mack. He'll be back with us tomorrow morning for all of us until tomorrow morning at 7. Have a great opening day, St. Louis.